Welcome to the SLEWNIVERSE podcast, episode 25 with Sunday Nobody, one of my favorite artists right now in the world. I think he will be one of the biggest artists, and we're going to dive into that in the podcast. I just wanted to say that. Also, probably watch some of his videos on TikTok or Instagram to give you some context because we talk a lot about it. But we're going to dive into all of that and why I think he's so amazing. Also, this podcast I want to talk about has turned into more of like a legacy interview podcast rather than having like a show every week, which was my original intention. It's just logistically not working, how much money and time it takes. But when I meet awesome artists or if I have super amazing people who I want to interview and have a conversation with, you kind of pull them in, and that's what it's become. So I'm really happy that, I'm still doing this, and there's a lot more coming and amazing artists that I meet through the internet or in New York City. So I just wanted to say that. And this podcast is sponsored by no one. So, you can pick up some merch on SLEWNIVERSE.com. To support me, some awesome hoodies, other prints and everything. And you can use the code SLEWNIVERSEPOD for 15% off everything just to support these conversations and keep this all up and running. Get yourself some swag. So without further ado, Sunday Nobody, episode 25.
Someone just DM'd me the other day, basically being like, have you done a podcast? And I was just like, but done a blanket no. Just it felt like I don't know what my hesitation was to do it before. Probably,
you were nervous. Or you didn't want to show your face. We're going to kind of get into that.
I think I wanted a separation of church and state. And when you were like, you want to come on the pod? I was like, I don't know. I kind of like having,
ambiguity.
Yeah. But I also think that when I saw that Shane from Stuff Made Here, my favorite YouTuber, had done a podcast, I was like, let's go.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it's everything you want. It's
which is a little bit more insight and context into their backstory, because it's such a, you see someone online and you're like, how do they possibly come to the position for them to do the things that they're doing? And it's really interesting getting backstory to it.
Yeah, and also you get such small little tidbits and crumbs of their persona on those big projects like Shane and Stuff Made Here that you probably relate to or agree with, and you're like, dude, just let me get some more of that.
But those are it's scripted. When I do my videos, it's I've sat with this project for so long. It's not the way that I interact with people. I'm not like, hi, I'm right. It's those videos are like a single layer of the onion. Right,
but I'm saying you still get glimpses of his normal person, or when he gets frustrated or how he uses a hammer or those little things, how he talks about it anyways. That's why I love these podcasts.
I 100% agree.
Because I have that curiosity and I am lucky to, drive the knife in. So let's just start. First of all, what are your intentions on being this podcast and expectations? I want to say that before I really hard introduce you.
Great. What are my intentions?
Or expectations. We kind of talked about it. You liked when Shane exposed more of him.
I think.
Do you have something to say?
No, just I like hearing people talk.
Yeah.
I like when people, and this is not really, I'll just point out other things, other parts of podcasts that I like, and we could probably try to recreate those, which is, I like when people are open and vulnerable about both their journey, how they got there, rather than being painting this cool theatrical picture. It's like, oh no, this didn't work out, and sort of the trials and tribulations of how I got to where I am. Insecurities about where I'm going. And then just greater context too, especially for the type of video that I think for the type of videos that I produce, which are basically devoid of all personal backstory. If I was you're a vlogger in many ways, that you have you give your audience way more context, just through the length of the videos that you produce and the sheer quantity. You've produced a lot and you get way more personal in them. And I'm like, this is how I made this thing.
Right.
It doesn't have anything to do with me.
Sure.
And I think it's interesting when I see podcasts of people that I'm interested in like terms of what they make. I want to know about that person and like how they got there. So I think that's interesting too.
Me too. Yeah. My goals with these are to basically get a little backstory. I always wanted the genesis of, how you attained your skills, what led you to these interests, and then why you wanted to become bigger. And so that's sort of just like medium background info, which I think is important for more context, and that's should be just quick, and then just diving deep into your brain and asking specific questions. Are you comfy over there?
Yeah. It's like a really regal chair.
It is kind of regal.
I like it.
But you can lean back and move this. All right, but we got to talk about who Sunday Nobody is and what whom Sunday Nobody is and what he does, what you do. And instead of you telling me, which I want you to give yourself a description of how you classify yourself as an artist or a maker, but I wrote like a pretty heady thing, and I'm going to read it to you of what I think.
I would love. I'm beyond excited.
Yeah.
For this.
So who is Sunday Nobody? He is a lesser knowledgeable, lesser skilled stuff made here. Shane Witten. I actually did write that before we were talking about it.
Biggest compliment.
Plus a high internet IQ. You're an engineer, motion graphics artist, fabricator, carpenter, filmmaker. You make videos about your insanely idiosyncratic projects that spawn from meme and internet culture. Your projects at their core are simple, but almost reach irony with how complex and large scale they become. You make 2 to 3 minute videos on TikTok and Instagram of how you created each insanely complex project, and by using satire and acutely specific creative internet trends to derive motifs and narratives, you build elaborate and ingenious interactive pieces of art paired with a video. Sometimes the video is the final piece, but sometimes the video is just the vehicle to participate in the interactive, tangible piece. I don't really know. I think that you're really awesome, and no one is really on your level in terms of making these creative projects and the IQ and gumption to actually execute these sort of profoundly large-scale endeavors. How did you take that? And am I anywhere clear? Because also, I'll quote you on your, I don't want to like blow up a website or something. Somewhere on the internet, you wrote, I make meme and internet art. Mm-hmm. So that was just me elaborating on.
That was, fills my heart with joy hearing that. I will push back on the last.
Please.
I'll push back on the last bit about, I think there's a lot of people doing stuff to the extent that I am, and
right, we can talk their names.
We can talk more about it, but that's all extremely nice. Yeah, I would say meme art, and like, what does that even mean?
I mean, it just doesn't even come close to give what you do, because there's so much that goes into it. It's not. It's sure it's a meme umbrella, but. And okay, let me give some context. All right, so and hopefully while that was reading, I'll overlay stuff. But here are some of your projects. Writing out the entire movie of Shrek on a large piece of paper, all the dialogue, every word. Hiding the Disney moms within a giant mural of NYC that you drew. Building 3,000-pound sarcophagus to put a bag of flaming hot Cheetos in, and then burying it for future civilizations to find. And then making a giant maze, where the only way to solve this giant maze, you end up drawing Barry B. Benson from the Bee Movie. So things like that, and then to the nth degree, like we were sort of talking about, to a really impressively large scale. Like, would you consider yourself a maker or an art? Like, do you consider yourself an artist? It's just, there's so much to unpack that. Yeah. And I kind of hate categories and classifications, but I also do like
it's interesting, like how people self-identify. I wouldn't I don't consider myself a maker. When I think makers, I would say artist.
Okay.
/ content production.
Okay, wow.
Content. Well, because like what you said, it's about 50-50 in my mind.
Yeah.
About if I just made a thing, it wouldn't hold the same standing like within myself as if I made the thing and then shared it online. So the video is in some ways as much the final product as the final thing.
No, 100%. And I'm saying, so what I'm thinking, that's not actually what I thought you were going to say. And you're saying that the context also is extremely important to differentiate yourself from a maker to an artist, or
I don't think it's, I mean,
slightly.
Like you're a perfect example of this, where my mom was like, "Oh, where you're going to New York? Like, what are you doing there?" She's not Southern. I don't know why I just gave her a Southern accent, but I was like, oh, it's this guy, it's SLEW. And she's like, oh, what does he do? I was like, he's an artist. And then I paused and I thought, oh, but he's also sort of an influencer. And I was like, he's also sort of a vlogger. He's also sort of you have a million different hats. And I think that, and this is something I'd love to talk more about, which is people our age that are trying to execute in creative endeavors, like it seems to be a prerequisite to have skill in multiple different areas in terms of like content. I think it'd be really hard to make it in a creative field where that's sort of self propelled without the ability to edit or 100%. The ability to like use social media with some fluidity, like all these skills. And so you're a perfect example of this, which is, I wouldn't say that you're just an artist, but that is a large component of what you do.
Totally. So you're saying, and to sort of piggyback that, it's almost you need storytelling skills. Yeah. Where the sort of...
Well, I mean, there's like people out there that are just amazing oil painters.
Right, but and they more and more, it's the scaling weight is like, it's harder to just become a sculptor.
If you wanted to be like, I'm just going to like engage in the gallery world. It's like, without any online presence,
I don't think really many kids are trying to do it. But that's, so you also, I didn't really mention that. I mean, we do the same thing. I make videos about the paintings. You make videos about your projects, and there's a large storytelling element to it, and it's so fascinating and it's wonderful. But what else? Anything that you disagreed with, like, because you are just read it. Because you are a maker, though. That's like why I'm really into you as an artist, and I think you're great because I love building things, and you're you code, motion graphics. You are sort of an engineer. You have 3D printers, lasers. You have a huge wood shop with huge tools. Like that's a very big compartment to the work.
Yeah, I wouldn't push back if someone said you're a maker. It's probably not how I self-identify, but I don't mind at all. You can call me a frog.
Maker elements.
Yeah, sure, because there's that is a huge component of it.
Yeah, and you love that, right?
Yeah, I mean, when I first moved to this is some context backstory, which I'm sure will be.
Yes, we could just transition to that. College.
Amazing, which is, went to college, graduated school. I did a double major in art and film. And I remember graduating and being like, wow, I learned no hard skills. I had my friend Tywin, who you'd actually really like, just moved to New York, RIP, from Seattle. And we met in film class, like a production class. And I remember, I hope my ex-film professor doesn't see this, but I remember being like, had some pretty technical questions about After Effects or Premiere or something. And I remember just being like, Professor blank, like how to do this thing. He's like, oh yeah, I have no idea. And I was like, the fuck? Like, this is like, why am I here if you can't teach me to do these things? And then I quickly realized, like, oh, my friend Tywin, who was a grade below me, was a freshman, like was miles ahead in terms of hard skills from these, a 55-year-old dude who like, whatever. So in terms of hard skills, learned basically nothing at college, but not nothing, but not a huge amount. But in terms of like social skills and becoming like a person that like I wanted to be in terms of like kinder. I grew up on the East Coast, so like I probably wasn't like kindness or there are like a lot of things that I value highly now, like later in my life, were not things that I think were valued in my upbringing a huge amount in like the East Coast culture of like growing up in Boston. I think all the stereotypes about Boston, like from different movies, are in some ways true.
Are 100% true.
Yeah, driving and all that stuff. But so college was really good for me in terms of like growth. Yeah. Like for the first 2 years of college specifically, it was probably like mentally in the headspace I was in like high school. Right. And then transitioned into like a more Pacific Northwest
post-college
growth, whatever, which I'm really appreciative for. But in terms of like actually gaining like how to use a table saw.
But I will push back. I feel like, and I saw a couple of your projects from college. The How to Love and Be Loved really fucked me up, dude.
Did I show you that?
I went deep.
How do you find that?
What do you think we are here? A low-budgeted podcast produced selectively by me? Because you're right, but I did my research. No, but the thing about college is it pushed you to do all these projects. Like you had to do projects. You had to do projects. Absolutely. You had resources to do those projects. You had like-minded individuals to help bounce ideas. So that's the framework where college is awesome. I completely agree with hard skills, technical skills. get on YouTube. You can surpass every professor ever.
But also, what you're saying about, I wouldn't have met these people had it not been for school. So that's huge.
And you gather and get excited. Like, you can't replicate that anywhere.
Yeah. So art and film double major.
That's awesome. I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. And look at me now.
Smart guy.
But so I remember graduating school and being like, wow, I'm the least employable person in the universe. Just, I don't know what I'm going to do. But I wasn't really stressed about it. I had saved up. I had like a bunch of really shitty jobs in college, like, dishwashing and whatever, working for the outdoor department, doing like ad stuff. And I'd saved up a bunch of money, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna graduate and just go. I was base jumping at the time.
Yeah, we can get into that maybe.
That was a big part of my life, so I think it's probably
insane
some context.
Base jumper.
I
also watched a video, base jumping Moab 2018.
You found that from Mills. Oh,
dude, the most fucked up thing I've probably ever seen is, I don't think you were actually in this group. Maybe you had a
landing on top of Kingfisher. I know.
And then repacking and then jumping. Like, that is the sketchiest thing I've ever seen. I was watching it like this.
Well, so just a quick
yeah.
Backstory. So we were talking about this recently, which is personality traits that lead to both success and like abject failure.
Yes.
Too, and how those are very
possible defects.
Yes.
Paired with success.
And how that personality trait, which can lead for you to be successful, also can nuke your life too pretty easily. And my hyperfixation on like single activities is a good example of that. So prior to doing this, like I started, for some context, I started doing art about a year and 3 months ago.
You started the Sunday Nobody world.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, these projects, motion graphics, like, are really great and really creative. And again, that showed me sort of an evidence of the archaeological evidence of your passion and ambition, because they're pretty darn good and well said, and like, the stories you made, or like the cool projecting projects at your college, like, they're pretty, you
dove deep.
You had it. Damn. Like, you had it back then, and so it was only a matter of time before, or whenever you wanted to choose to do it. But yeah, so there was this big intermittent gap of base jumping.
Yeah, well, the majority of my adult life.
Okay. So crazy.
Sophomore year, started base jumping, and like basically from sophomore year of college to a year ago, it was like the only thing I did basically I mean, I went on a couple surf trips and like, but essentially like, that was my like sole activity. Or
were you just chasing the adrenaline? Is that it? Because it wasn't a job. It wasn't like social. Not like, what, you were just obsessed with it.
Yeah, it's super obsessed.
But like adrenaline junkie way?
No, I mean, like, I was doing it for 7 years and like 900 and whatever jumps. Like, after so many jumps, you're not like,
really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You say it wasn't so social. That was the big draw. Okay. It was like being super.
You're like a little clan. And
yeah, a little clan.
Or maybe a big clan, excuse me.
Someone described it really well, which is like, it's like juice concentrate for friendship.
Whoa, that's nice.
It consolidates down all of these great components of friendship into like a really
bare bones,
raw, or like
authentic,
quick way. And the way I describe it to people is like, there's a like right before you jump, there's a period where you have to like you're with your jump button, you like turn around, and there's like these two little pins to make sure that your parachute actually opens. And you have to like pin check each other, and like I can't see my pins because they're on my back, so you just turn around, and you're like, am I good? And they check you, and when you're like turning around and you're just like, I hope this person's doing it right.
I hope I trust this person.
Yeah, it's like an intense moment of connection and trust and all this other stuff that I really like. So there's that, and then a bunch of other things too. And like, but okay, anyways, so base jumping 7 years, that was kind of the only thing that I was interested in doing or pursuing. Moved to Seattle. So I did that for a couple of years out of college, just traveling around, like doing like odd jobs and stuff. And then moved back to Seattle to win back an ex-girlfriend. Actually, I was just like, I kind of had run out of money and was like, I need to sort of find a place to live and get a real job for a bit. And I was like, I guess I'll just move back to Seattle. I'll just move to Seattle. and was living in a van outside my friend's house, like just in the city in Seattle. Actually, Tywin, that friend who was talking about before.
Nice. Shout out Tywin.
Shout out Tywin, yeah, and Anna. They actually both live in New York right now. Seeing them later, and they're wonderful. They like let me live on the street and just like come into their house and like
that's awesome.
Use their computer, and it was amazing. So did that, and then I got this job at this ad agency that I currently work for by sending them this video that was just like, I made this, I really needed money. I was like really broke. And I was sent out my application to like a million different places and wasn't getting any responses. And then finally I was like, I'm not going to do 10% into 10 companies. I'm just going to do 100% into one company.
Nice.
So I made them this like one specific motion graphics video. It's like an animation video being like, this is me, you should hire me if you can.
Right.
And just downloaded LinkedIn Premium or like the free week trial and just spammed every single person. Yeah.
Smart.
And they hired me. I got this job and I was making, minimum wage. I was like an intern for the first couple months making minimum wage, but then I got like hired and it gave me like $60,000 a year. And I was like,
that's
like $60,000. It was like incredible.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
How old are you at this point?
36,
37. I'm kidding.
I'm 28 now, and that was like 3.5 years ago. So whatever that math is.
Like 25,
25 something
24.
Like that. And then I moved into a shed in my friend's parents' backyard, and I was paying $400 a month for that. And I was like saving an insane amount of money because I didn't have the studio. I was basically base jumping, but I had all the gear for that. So I was spending no money. I had health insurance, and I did that for about a year. And I looked around and was like, is this adult life? Do we just do this until we die? And I got super bummed. And I just felt like I was waiting for my life to begin a little bit.
Interesting.
So
did you just felt like you did it long enough, like 7 years of base jumping? Did COVID have anything to do with this mental lapse or change your mind? Am I skipping ahead?
Slightly. So that was just exclusive with my job. Okay. And just being like, okay.
Epiphany.
A little bit of just being like,
life crisis, perhaps.
Yeah, or just thinking,
what else is there?
What else is like, does adult life offer, basically? Because that working a 9-to-5 job and just saving a bunch of money was not fulfilling. I mean, it was nice to have whatever, $40,000 in the bank or whatever.
Of savings? That's great. That's a lot.
Well, yeah. So.
But you're a hamster on a wheel.
Yeah. Well, and also I think it's important to point out, no, it's true. But I think it's important to point out that there's like a lot of circumstances that are outside of my control that contributed to my current situation that, people are like, I started from the bottom and now I'm here. And like, this is all me, baby. It's like, no, that is not the case with me. Like I was in so many ways born on third base. Yeah. And then I like stole home maybe, or not even like someone. Sure.
No, I know what you're saying. And you're very humble and nice. And I'm very similar. I grew up very lucky.
But yeah. And so like the best example of that is like, when I moved to Seattle, like I had friends that I could stay with while I was like got on my feet, or like, I had those friends that their parents had a little shack in their backyard that I could rent for super cheap. And then a huge one is I didn't have any student debt coming out of college. Like I would not have been able to save the money so that $40,000 that I saved was then what I leveraged and did the studio. Right. So long story short, I was like, I feel unfulfilled. I need to figure out something else in my life. So I started volunteering at a tool library. Do they have this here?
Tool library?
It's literally what it sounds like.
No, but that sounds something incredible. I'm so into. Dude, I've never heard of that.
I love them so much.
But wait, real quick, side tangent. Yeah. Do you have to, it's like people rent tools? So they're not big machines, or is it like a maker space where you can use time and use machines there?
It's both.
Okay, that's awesome.
It's incredible.
That's sick. I love that.
And it'll be like everything you can think of, like tile saws and like stuff that you don't want to ever buy because it's like for one project. So I was driving 45 minutes to West Seattle to volunteer at this tool library, and it just wasn't like logistically, after doing that for a while, I was like, damn, I need to like figure out a way to get my own space. At this point, I was not doing any art.
We're missing something. So with this newfound lust for life or changing up the routine, when did that itch to make stuff come in? Was it always there?
No, it was.
So you're saying I need my own space, but why did you feel that way?
Because I had sorry, just burped.
We just had burgers.
Yeah. At the tool library, they had a small workshop, and I had built a chess set, a coffee table.
Awesome.
This was much more maker.
Yeah.
Carpentry stuff, furniture design, like done like a table. I've shown you that knife box, didn't I?
Yeah, I think you did.
Yeah. So I'd made that like sort of mechanical knife box, and which will be right here. Have fun editing that.
Market, baby.
Yeah. So I'd been making stuff while I was volunteering at the tool library, but it was just so far away, and the hours weren't that good or convenient for my job. So I was like, I need to. And
you were enjoying it a lot. You're like, this
loving
is awesome.
it. Yeah, super fun.
Yeah.
And so that's when the spark happened. I had two friends, Tywin, third callback, and my friend Mike, who I would say probably more than anyone are the two people that contributed most to like why I'm sitting here. Like without these two people in my life, I probably wouldn't. If they're watching this, don't mean to hype them up too much, but
no, dude, credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I wouldn't be. I mean, there's like the list is so long for
starting with your mother.
Yeah, of course.
But no, I hear it. I have people like that also.
And so they were both had Mike had just quit Microsoft doing like really advanced augmented reality like research. He was super smart. And Tywin had just also quit a tech job to do arts. They were both trying to do art stuff full time.
Cool.
And I was still working 9 to 5, but I was like, why don't we try to rent it'd be sick to be able to rent a studio space. Yeah. And they were like, oh yeah, that would be sick. In the way that like, that'll never happen kind of thing. And if there's one thing that I feel like I'm good at is like a very low activation energy in terms of the jump between an idea and starting is like none basically, which has gotten me into a lot of trouble before. Like I basically put no forethought into my actions.
Right.
And so
no, but that's a good thing because a lot of people do the opposite. They go, oh, we could do this. They dream, they blow their wad in terms of energy, and then don't follow
through. It's a spectrum, and I think it's probably healthy to be somewhere in the middle. But like, that was probably like a Tuesday that we were talking about, like, it'd be cool to try to find a commercial space to turn into a studio. And then like that night I was like calling people, be like, oh, like this. So I found this place on Craigslist and I texted my friends. I was like, okay, we're never going to be able to get this place, but someplace exactly like this. I called the landlord. I just like kept harassing him, basically be like, please, can you show us this place, please? He showed us this place. I show up. I was like, asking me.
What about the place that was great?
Just like, I mean, you've seen it in the videos.
Yeah.
It's just like tall ceilings.
Super big.
Like you can just, huge. You can just do whatever you want. It's just awesome space. And my friend Tywin had like bleach blonde hair. My friend Mike looked like
a Motley Crue you had.
Yeah, it looked like Jesus in like a punk band. Like we just
God
didn't
bless.
look. And also we didn't have commercial liability insurance. We didn't have an LLC.
This is like a legit commercial space.
It's
unlike
like
my studio, which is just like.
But you have an LLC and all that stuff, don't you?
Yeah. But this is more just like a space. You're saying
this was
just
like,
for people. Commercial space is way different.
Yeah, we had like a triple N lease, so it's like totally.
Yeah.
And this is actually a lot of people ask me about this. I think this is an interesting to share, which is like a lot of people want a creative space to. There's not a huge amount of opportunity for like living in a city. Trying to find a spot to make stuff is really hard. Yeah. Whether it's like making or art or whatever. So like, I went on Craigslist, found this space. It was a truck bay, so it was like super long, super thin.
Right. It's kind of like a railroad studio.
It's probably like, I don't know, like 20 feet wide and like 100 feet long or something. It's not 2,000 square feet. It's a little bit less than that. But go on Craigslist, call the guy. He tours us the place, immediately texts me being like, I love my landlord, but when we first met, he was like, these kids are not the right match.
They're not it, man.
He texted me and was like, hey, it's not a good match. Like, I don't want to waste your time. We can't do it. And I was just like, oh, Bruce, please. Yeah. And I just...
This is the tail end of COVID also?
Like May 2021.
Okay.
So I just texted him back and just said, is there anything I can do to alleviate your concerns? Like, I will... He basically was just like, listed off like 11 things that he's like, this is like, you don't have business liability insurance, you don't have an LLC, you don't have like a business bank account. You don't like, there's like he listed off a bunch of things.
Real
problems.
And
I was like,
real illegitimate.
Yeah. And he was like, he was like, I think you guys would probably throw a rave in here or like grow weed. And I was like, because we didn't have a clear idea of what we were going to use the space
and you have no
for.
evidence of a business prior.
Anything.
You're just like, we
not
just want
a good
the space.
Yeah. So I was like, give me 48 hours. Yeah. And I like frantically applied for an LLC, got a business license, like all the stuff that he needed. Mm-hmm. And he was just like, but no one else was interested in the space.
Right.
And I was just kept being like, Bruce, please. Every step of the way, he was like, okay, like I'll send you the lease. And like, if anyone else is interested, I'm going to give it to them, blah, blah. And then eventually he was just like, okay, like fine, sure.
It worked out. Not taking no for an answer.
So that worked out. And then, but the space was completely barren. It was just like a empty truck bay. So we put in 10 grand into doing electrical, which was huge.
Wow, that's amazing.
Split between 3 people.
So electrical to get 240?
240, yeah, we get all the like heavy machinery electrical and also more electrical on the wall. So that was super expensive, just to give people an idea of like the startup costs.
Yeah. And how much was the rent, if you don't mind? And you're splitting it with three people?
I think it's 1,200 square feet or 1,100 square feet. We were splitting it with 3 people, which has been kind of crazy wiggle throughout the year.
Wiggle waggle.
But 1,200 square feet, it was like $2,000, like about $2,000. It's gone up slightly. A month, yeah. A year, I wish. But that, so in a triple, for people that don't know, a triple N lease, a commercial lease is it's not like your residential apartment. You basically are responsible for everything. Like you pay the property tax, you pay the like electrical, you pay everything. I guess it's the same in residential, and it's like the roof breaks, everyone in the whole building splits it based on the square footage of their thing.
You just got a bones.
What do you mean?
You got a skeleton. Everything else.
Well, I just took off my headphones. I feel like I just entered another dimension.
I know. So, you left the good world. I know it's steamy in here with these lights.
But so...
So the price doesn't matter. I was just curious for context.
No,
you got it split between 3 people.
It is super important because people are like, I could never do that.
Well, and it's like what's the accessibility? It's like, oh, did this kid pay like $100,000 or is it some more mediumly doable price?
Well, it's like I feel slightly divided about this because when people hit me up on Instagram and they're like, I really want a space like this. Like, how do I do this basically? Or like, how achievable is this? Part of me is like, you can totally do this. And I don't want to like discourage people from pursuing a career in the arts or to get a studio space or whatever. The other part of me is like, it feels slightly disingenuous to be like, anyone can do this. Yeah. Because there are like we were talking about before, there's so many circumstances and things that led me to be able to capitalize. Like perfect example. If I graduated college with a student, $40,000 worth of student debt, I would not have been able to save $40,000 to then put in the studio.
I mean, same.
And if I hadn't met Mike and Tywin, who were 2 sort of like people my age that were economically in the same position that I was in, without student debt and with disposable income and with jobs. Well, actually, they both quit, but like,
sure,
I wouldn't have been able to do that.
But you also just did it because you thought you wanted to do it and you could do it. Yes, your circumstance is your circumstance. You know, it is what it is.
Well, like there's that line from Bo Burnham who says Taylor Swift telling people to follow their dreams is like a lottery winner telling people to liquidate their asset and buy Powerball tickets. Where it's like you're not fully recognizing the exterior circumstances that led you to be in a position, and it's sort of so I feel divided because part of me is like, yes, it is more achievable than people think, and B, it's like, what position am I in to say that? Because I had people in my life that I was like, how do taxes work? Yeah. And I was like, I just call my dad and he'd be like, oh, you have to set aside 30%. And like, you should think about like hiring a tax person for $200 each year. And I was like, yeah, and all that stuff. So there's a lot of support. And is it possible to do like get a commercial space, do all this stuff without the advantages that I had? Like, yes, of course you can, but it's like way harder. Sure. And so that is something I've been thinking about when people reach out to me, is to like where in that spectrum to lie. Just something I've been thinking about. So we get the studio space. And then at this point, I didn't really know what I was going to use it for. I mean, like I thought like furniture design, maybe. I just like wanted a space to make. And this is this sort of a personality.
That's more crazy than the other things you said.
Well, yeah. So I had spent $3,000 on the electrical, or probably a little bit more, like $3,500. And I had all this money saved from working at my job for a year and a half and spending like no money. And so I was like, I really want to buy a CNC. Mm-hmm. I really want to buy a table saw, and I really want to buy a joiner planer combo.
Damn. With no intentions, or you had medium?
Like furniture design, slightly. I mean, I knew I wanted to make stuff, and those felt like the sort of basic things, but I had never spent any money. Like it had like caused friction in relationships, how little money I spent in my life. And then all of a sudden I was like,
just don't.
All right, I'm going to spend like $14,000 on a CNC machine. It was like
crazy.
the most expensive thing I've ever bought in my entire life.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And far and away the best like rash decision I've ever made. Mm-hmm. But that is a common theme throughout my life, is like taking action without any forethought.
Yeah.
And in some ways I'm rewarded for my bad behavior, because it's like, oh my God, it's totally worked out. But like that's an insane proposition.
It is pretty insane. Like I do the same thing, but that's like to the nth degree of you have no idea what you're going to use it for. But on the flip side, it gives you the freedom to do whatever comes up. You don't pigeonhole yourself, or bottleneck yourself with one plan and get married to an idea.
Great segue, because I was like, oh, what should I do with this CNC? And I was like, I should shove a pen in it and write out and have the robot write out the whole Shrek script.
Yeah, but where does that come from, dude? Do you okay, let's back it up for a second. Yeah. Great stories of how we got there. We got context. Where does your love, or maybe it just arrived when you got the studio and we're in the current state, where does the meme love come from? Where does these like weirdly internet,
it's a great question,
forward things? Because this is a multi question. Well, let's maybe answer that first, and then talk about the decision to penetrate social media sort of with social media.
How meta. I don't know what that means.
Do you kind of get what that means?
Well, I'll answer the first part first, which is
memes. Where were you interested in memes, or like where did this?
I started Meme Friday at work.
Oh, really?
Before I've always liked doing like weird events. Like I organized a citywide I was unemployed at the time. It was 2018. And I was like, what should I do? I was just like trying to fill my time. And so I organized this I spent like a week and a half organizing a citywide scavenger hunt for all my friends. I invited like 20 people maybe. And it like snowballed out of control, like a high school party. And like way more people ended up showing up.
Okay. Very fun thing to do.
Super fun.
As adults also.
Yeah, super fun. Like cars. It was like this whole thing. I was like, that was so much fun. And so that was just like one component, is like audience participation. But this is way before I was making any art. I was just like into like making fun things for people to do.
Right. Puzzle oriented.
Sure. Puzzle oriented, or just
mystery,
like participation.
Sure. Participation
oriented. So that was one. And then number two was like just gags or like fun things. Like
satire.
Memes. Or just whatever. Like I remember in college, my friend, this is dumb, actually, very dumb, but we'd gotten the college radio station shut down for like a week or something, because we had it's like a freshman year, and we would always climb the radio tower behind the like student center that had the like college radio like thing, and it was in like rural Washington, so it was like basically Christian music and country music with this like one small bastion of like new / like young music that wasn't that country or whatever. So I was like, we were bored one Friday night, and I was like, we should go to the dump, and we got a bike, and we got a bunch of PVC pipes and a milk crate and a beach ball, or like a yoga volleyball, and like a stick and a blanket.
What the heck?
And we like made like an ET sculpture, like from the movie, with the kid riding the bike with like ET in the front.
Right.
And we like hauled this thing up
That's hilarious.
radio tower and then got caught by security halfway through. And so it was just like a bike hanging on this thing for a week. And this, I feel bad about this because it was like more mischievous. And I think right now I'm trying to not be as like...
You're not like a vandal.
I'm not trying to like damage anything or just...
it was like a funny, pranky idea.
Yeah. And I think as you're trying to figure out like where you want to put your energy, I think when I was younger, it was more... like nefarious or mischievous, and I don't have any interest now in doing like things that are like trolling people or like causing like actual disruptions. Because like the college radio station got shut down for like, and I remember, and I was hosting a radio show at the time.
So
and we
self-harm.
As like shooting myself in the foot. I remember we got an email from like the head of the radio station being like, some idiots climbed up the tower, and I was like, oh god damn it.
What idiots.
But so like where did the memes come from was like that, and those library projects that you saw too. Like that was in the same realm, which is what's a fun thing we could do that would like I don't want to say like a joke exactly, but sort of. So I made a big during finals week
countdown to break.
Yeah.
So it's interactive. It wasn't there before. It was coded.
Everyone was like really dying during finals week.
Uplifting.
And they would be like on the front of the building and walking into the library. We like made this big.
I can overlay it if you're cool with that.
Right here. We made a big like countdown timer that like counted down until the moment break started. Yeah. And the school is like not that into it, to be honest. But they, but stuff like that. So. Looking back, you can connect all the dots.
Hero.
I don't think
with coding and motion graphics.
Looking back, you can say like, oh, that's like objectively very similar 100%. To what I'm doing now.
That's why I was so into it, doing a little research. I was like, wow, this makes sense.
I
just wanted to hear it from you.
But at the time, like, there's that Steve Jobs thing where he's talking about how looking back, it's so easy for him to trace the lineage of how he made fonts be such an important thing in personal computing.
Interesting.
Where he was in school and he didn't really know what he was doing, and he took a calligraphy class. And he was like, this is incredible. Kind of just like whatever, put it in his brain, moved on. Like, way later at Apple, he's like, we need specific fonts. And these people are like, we can't, like his employees were like, we're like having trouble even making this computer work. Like, you really want us to give a shit about making like serif versus sans serif. He's like, no, this is important. You don't understand. And obviously fonts are really important and graphic design, and he said looking back it's so easy to say calligraphy class fonts at Apple, but at the time when he was taking the calligraphy class you're like I have no idea.
Retrospectively you have no idea, or only retrospectively can you put those pieces together. In the moment, yes, I agree.
So looking back at the things that I've done in my past, like, yes, they're like,
you can see the path.
It's like, oh, I built a trebuchet in high school, and like that's very similar to this, and like a woodworking and whatever. Yeah. But at the time, you're kind of just like, I'm just doing this, and I'm doing this.
Bopping around.
Yeah. So
Shrek.
Yeah. So I did that project to basically be like, what's something. I have two brothers who are sort of like my North Star when it comes to like. And a small group of friends, but like what do I think would be like give them a kick? And I was like, they would think it's funny if I use this robot, like this really objectively expensive, like sort of industrial machine to write out the whole Shrek script.
Hilariously smart, I think.
And then
because that's funny, because like that's you're not looking at viral videos, you're looking to get a kick out of your brother and a couple friends. In turn.
You mean the goal isn't to
well, I'm just saying
create a viral video. Certainly not, because like I had deleted my I don't think I had social media when I made that project. I think what happened was I did that project and I was like, so I had my relationship with social media during college was very much like, look at me, I did this stuff, I'm so cool. It was very like self-aggrandizing, and that was like a common theme throughout my like high school and then probably like into college too, was like doing things that I thought would, specifically with social media, that like I thought would make me look cool or make me feel good about myself, or sort of, I'm trying to think of a good example. It's like I made some like travel video. Like I went on a Africa surf trip with my brother, and I made a video about that and like a skydiving plane crash that I'd been in, and it was very much like, look at this cool
shock factor,
this cool life that I live, I like took a step back after a couple of years of engaging with social media that way, and I was like, it's not really like how I want to interact with the internet. It just felt like, or just with people in general. Like imagine if you just met someone, you're like, check out all this cool shit I did. And then the irony is that when you like try hard to make people like you or to display things that you think are cool, in many ways, like most people aren't gonna relate to that. And what they do relate to is just being like, oh, I'm really into this thing. And which is what I'm doing now. And people relate to that way more than people ever did about like some travel video where you're trying to like, look at all this cool stuff I did. So I took a break from social media for like 5 years probably. And then in 2020 or whenever the Shrek video was.
Had to be 2021, right? You didn't get
April 2021. Or October 2021. Because that's when like the first project was. That's what I consider sort of the start of the art stuff. Sorry. What was it?
Shrek 2021.
Yeah. Oh, so
you didn't have social media.
Didn't have social media. So I had made that project, and I was like, oh, I want to share this. Yeah. And I liked the idea of sharing it with. This goes back to the name thing that we were talking about at the beginning, which is so much of why I didn't like my interaction with social media was because it was like me. Yeah. And it was like on my account, and it was like trying to
fall the trap of ego and make yourself feel better.
And that's something that I didn't like about my personality when I was younger. And it's still something I struggle with now, which is like ego or so having a pseudonym, is that the word?
Like a moniker?
Sure.
Yeah, I think a moniker.
A separation between me.
Pseudonym? You could be right. I don't really know what that means. I think a moniker is what it is as well.
Perfect. I'll take your word for it.
Couldn't spell it though. Anyways.
And having that and it being about the project, like that wasn't about me. It was just about, look at this video it's about the process.
Put the whole spotlight on the process, nothing to do with you.
So that's why I didn't want to put myself into it.
No face for the first few big projects.
Yeah, I mean, like I was like in the background, but it was never like,
yeah.
And that's something
I made.
Yeah.
Wait, so that's so interesting. The name Sunday Nobody just came as like a supplemental thing. The project almost came first before the Sunday Nobody.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm trying to think of the. No, because I was thinking about. So both my friends, Mike and Tywin,
right? They're artists also, and you're like, I want to be an artist guy. Maybe
I was like, I needed to, or I felt obligated to do something that would like, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. Like I looked up, like these are really amazing artists. Mike and Tywin. And just to put in perspective, like Mike was at the time working on a lenticular 3D display that projects, that gives the illusion of 3D without 3D glasses, like intense, like optical, physical, like physics,
next level shit. And you're surrounded by epically talented people.
Yeah, and
top tier people.
And that's a common theme throughout my entire life.
You are a top tier.
Is growing up like in what I consider to be surrounded by like high powered people,
high achieving,
like
intellectual,
or just like really smart people, really talented people, and then me like having a huge like chip on my shoulder or like insecurity about having like being super dyslexic and like being an idiot. Like I got held back in school. I failed out of all
comparing
these things.
yourself to these people.
Or just being like, oh, that's just not me. Like I'm just not like talented in that way. Mm-hmm. And I was very lucky in that I had parents and people in my environment that were like, oh, this kid's like kind of an idiot in like a lot of ways, but we're going to be really supportive in these other ways. So it'd be like, oh, this kid literally can't spell orange as like a freshman in high school, but my God, we're going to tell him he's a good artist.
Yeah, but my God, he could really, project some cool things on the wall.
So I didn't feel like, oh, I'm terrible at everything. I just was very aware of the fact that...
You knew your shortcomings.
Yeah.
and you worked harder to do the other things, and also you surround yourself with
people.
I mean, you say that's like, oh, this is what helped me, but you probably were also. It's a smart thing to do.
What is to
surround yourself?
With people that are
yeah, like
than you?
That's like a attribute. You're taking control of your life. Maybe they were just planted there and you got lucky. Baseline.
You're right.
But
it is
still,
it's like to search out people that are.
It's a huge deal. When you hear like self-help people or a lot of people talk about that, like is the game-changing element to like their life and success. But anyways, it's not the one. But
yeah. So Tywin and Mike had both been talking about. And also they were like, dude, just put it on your name.
And they had an agenda with the studio. Maybe you were the only one of the three who was like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm going to buy a CMC. Like Mike and Tywin already had sort of a thing going.
Well, like sort of, but like.
Maybe not.
At that point, that we were like setting it up. Yeah. So I was just like, well, maybe I could do art stuff. And they were like, yeah, I do art stuff. And I was like, I don't really want to post it on social media. They're like, why not? Mm-hmm. And they were like,
the best question ever. Why not?
Exactly. They were like, just post it on your name. And I was just like, I don't want to like have myself in there and whatever.
My name.
And they're like, okay, you don't need to be, you can have it doesn't need to be you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, Mike, I credit Mike with the name. He was like, it can be some nobody. And I was like, nobody. Huh. And that's where the nobody from Sunday Nobody comes from.
Okay, because I was going to ask.
And Sunday is just like my internet name from like my AIM.
Oh, wow.
Or not Sunday. AIM, but just like the... You know how everyone has like your like Xbox gamer tag gamer tag or your like email or whatever.
Your metaverse name.
Yeah. So and so I had done the project.
It's a great name.
Thank you. Why do you say that?
Well, first of all, I don't think this is what you're doing. I'm not saying you should or you messed up by not doing this, but like I think you could have played this really well like a Gorillaz, like a Banksy. You could have gone the route by full no one knows who you are.
I really thought about it, and you know why I didn't do it?
Why? Well, I mean, no, yeah.
It's 100%. I had fully planned on like blurring out my face.
Yeah.
I was just like, I really don't.
I could have seen it.
I don't want to put my like. I want a full separation of church and state between myself, my ego, and all that stuff, and the stuff I make.
Yeah.
I just want it to be like this faceless thing where it's like you don't even see the person. It's just the stuff.
But that almost in itself is alluring and intriguing, adding to the bin of like ego and. Whatever.
Yeah, it's like this
in
meta
a weird
thing
way.
Where it's like, oh, you don't. It's like Banksy's face is his facelessness in some ways, and it's like even more powerful than if you just saw some guy named like Richard or whatever his real name is.
Well said.
So the reason I didn't.
Also, I'm probably going to be naming this podcast something extremely like hyperbolic.
I would love it.
Sunday Nobody is the next Banksy or something shitty like that, just to get the viewerships and then people see how awesome and authentic and nice and smart you are.
Thanks.
But I'm just putting that out there. Okay, Sunday Nobody.
So I don't know what we were talking about.
The lack of ambiguity you decided to do.
So
because you're working in it, it'd be too much work. I
edited the full video. That was it. I had edited the full video. I was like very committed to not like falling down the same trap hole that I had in my past experience with social media, and was like, okay, it's just not even going to be about me, and you can post whatever you want, and it doesn't have any impact on yourself. And so I was like, I'll just put a black bar over my eyes, or I'll blur my face.
That's your logo, also, actually, right?
I made that before I had decided. I put in about an hour's worth of After Effects motion tracking to do like to auto.
You told me that, right?
And it was incredibly tedious and it took forever. And I was like, fuck this. I'll just post my face and it'll be fine. I'll just remain pseudonymous.
Yeah, and you're doing a voiceover. So it's not like you're really talking to camera. It's just a guy in a time-lapse mode or his hands.
And then we've talked about this. You know, I've chatted your ear off about this, which is like lamenting about how much is it appropriate for me to like put myself into these things. And you've never given me a really helpful answer. You've always been like, whatever feels right.
You ask a lot of questions.
It's true.
No, I love talking to you about all of it. But again, it is your choice. I'm just giving, because like, what is my place to tell you what you should do?
Because you're A, you are in the same sphere as I am.
Yeah.
And B, you, like, I don't want to fluff your feathers too much.
Do it.
I don't ask, there's a select group of people whose opinion I really respect. You're in that group. And so I like really lean on them for advice and
feedback, which you're really good at asking for, which I idolize you for.
Yeah, I mean, it's slightly pestering, but I saw a video that was like how to, I sent it to you as the Blender video. It's like 7 habits of like a creative life or something. And it was like, make every day. And one of the ones was get feedback all the time. And so
I don't do it enough.
I'll just hit up random people. Legitimately, I'll hit up people that I see on your podcast, and I'll just...
Oh, really?
Yes. And I'll be like...
the people I've had on?
Yeah.
Who have you talked to?
Who I started...
That's fascinating.
DMing Jess, I don't remember her last name.
Jess Carp.
Yeah.
Yeah, the YouTuber.
And she helped me out on the Beans project.
Oh, nice.
And she was super nice. And I was just like, hey, like, I need some help with this like project. Can you like basically help me? And I feel like there's a very select group, not that select, dude. But there's the overlap in the type of stuff that we do it's a weird Venn diagram.
It really is.
It's not just like you're an artist. You're like doing this and you're content production and social media and all this stuff. And so this podcast is great because it focuses on I'm interested in it specifically because it's related to my lifestyle and all that and like what I choose to do. But the people you have on, I think it's a very good litmus test. I don't know what the right word would be, but it's a self-selecting group where I can ask, like I asked for her opinion because I saw the podcast. I was like, wow, very insightful. I need sort of another set of eyes on this. And it's really helpful being able to build a community online that you can then bounce ideas off of.
Totally.
And I just love that.
It's like a makeshift college.
It is.
Or whatever, or community. Yeah,
college
totally.
of Instagram direct messages.
Yes, but you're right. The Venn diagram goes deep and it's sort of like immense, but also there's so many plottable similarities. But I don't even know what we were talking about.
I'll continue the thing, which is I made the account, posted it, and you know how people like...
On TikTok first?
Yeah, TikTok. Oh, TikTok and Reddit. I made a Reddit account too because I love Reddit.
Yeah.
And this is, you know how people, like there's a really strong narrative within, you see podcasts of people that have like done stuff and it's always like, you know, I grinded for 10 years and you know, I never gave up and like, look at me now.
Yeah.
The
first thing you posted.
That is not me.
The first thing you posted just blew up.
Yeah. Which is like,
so
you know,
sick.
Someone like Mr. Beast, he did YouTube and got 0 views for I think like 7 years or something insane. Right. He posted like multiple times a week, all the time, with no affirmation or reward. He was just so into it.
Yeah.
And
but what are you? Are you like guilt tripping yourself?
No.
I'm just have
saying,
that story. Or?
No, I'm just saying that like for a viewer that's like, wow, I'm not grinding like for 10 years. Like, am I doing something wrong? Like, no, I don't think that I am like that. If I had, I would not have made all the projects that I have made had it not been for that first project, for whatever reason, like blew up on Reddit and TikTok in a way that was very unexpected and like intoxicating. Yeah. Where I was like, oh my God, people actually like the stuff that I make. Like, what?
Yeah, but it's also... you didn't grind on YouTube for 10 years, but it all informs each other. Your motion graphics background, your intense passions, like you said, or your hyper focus, like base jumping, double major, like, yes, that one story, anyone could blow up on TikTok. And yeah, you were a candidate for this new sort of, era 2 of social media, short form. Anyone and their brother, sister can like kind of blow up, but still the video was well said. The editing was good. Like you had all these things into it. And also for the rest of your videos, like a lot of people could just be one hit wonders. You sort of delivered the high caliber banger every time.
Well, thank you.
Things like, I just don't want you to sell yourself too short.
Just mediumly short.
I think that's a perfect amount.
I'll try to hit that. I think all I'm trying to say is that the reception of that first project, which I made in some ways was like the most pure project for me that I've made, because I was just like, it had no ulterior motive. Yes. It was just like I didn't have a social media account.
First project with your new studio and big tools.
And so to do that and then to have that reward in terms of the internal validation that I felt, the sort of the ideas of future possibilities. I was like, oh wow, this could turn it, like I didn't really know what.
Oh, that's awesome.
And the potentially the biggest benefit that I got from it was an intense like direction, in that I was not doing art until that project.
Right. That's
really
so crazy.
I mean, I was like pretty out on my art major when I like did not do well at
art. Like gave you vision.
In college, I like didn't do well in art at all. I got like a C, I think, in my
who cares about grades, dude? All those projects. Dude, if you want to go watch some fucked up shit, How to Love and Be Loved. I didn't really understand it completely, but it was amazing. And shout out Milo, who fucking scored that shit.
I want to tell you a funny story about that, which is he's really
that was an amazing little thing. What was she was pregnant, they were in love, then she left, and then they got back together.
People that I don't know, this is I did
projected on these walls. You had different shots of viewing the projection. I was like, okay, all these camera angles are pretty good.
Animated. I did like a thesis. My thesis film for art was an animated like love story that was projected onto walls and film.
Was that you?
What?
How do you do that? Also, how do you like find the silhouettes?
It was all green screen.
Green screen. And
green screen. It was a lot of like rotoscoping.
Right, okay.
It was a thing, but so the well, actually, I'm not gonna tell the story because it's too.
Okay, we'll show part of the video. It was really great. Anyways,
but so
stop interrupting, Lewis.
You call yourself Lewis?
No.
What I'm trying to say about the Shrek robot script, which is that I think a lot of my actions post that project were informed by the success of that project. And you are a good example. It's like you were grinding on YouTube for a minute before your first video really popped off.
Yes.
And so this is medium selling. This is the medium selling short, which is I don't think I'm pretty positive that I would not be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for that video reaching an audience. I'd probably be...
You wouldn't have given it 5 or 6 more videos if they didn't blow up.
I would be like making dining room chairs. Right. Or I'd be like making interesting like furniture design or something else.
That's interesting. I get that. And that makes sense.
And the joke is now that it's like I am constitutionally incapable of thinking about anything else in my life other than art right now.
Sure.
And this is what we were talking about before, which is a great benefit and eternal downfall of my personality. I think you can probably relate to this.
Yeah.
Which is hyperfixation, and like I
think the real basket of viewership and eyeballs, whether you're a really humble guy and like we don't have to keep smoking your salmon about how you're like a really authentic person, but I think that bag is real.
Wait, what bag?
The baggage of getting viewership, getting eyeballs, the affirmation, not in a but I'm saying it's like you just said it was sort of like the straw that broke the camel's back of you diving into this and pursuing it. I actually don't know what I'm saying, but kind of.
Well, no, I think that basically that I don't see myself as the type of or I didn't see myself as the type of person that would have just grinded on social media and done this art stuff. But now that I'm like doing art, it's like I'm incapable of like having balance right now. And so that's another thing we talked about this briefly before, which is, and I'm kind of curious about how you do this in your life, which is something I'm currently working on is balance.
Okay, I thought you were going to say your new sick project.
No, I don't actually have one right now. It's
I don't
causing me
believe it.
Intense anxiety.
I don't believe it.
Which is just for some like context.
Yeah, we love context.
I went on a bike ride with my girlfriend a month ago or so, and because she had vocalized to me that she wanted to spend more time together during the day on the weekends. I was like, that is a completely reasonable request.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay,
I got memes to make, babe.
And so we went on a bike ride, and we biked around this island. Lovely. And we got done, and she just turned to me and was like, damn, that was like the first time we've spent time together during the day. For context, we've been dating for 2 years. First time we've spent time together during the day on the weekend in a year. Because my schedule, I work a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah, you're
like
normal.
The art stuff it's not, it's just a hobby at the moment.
Yeah.
So I work a 9-to-5 job, working at an agency doing animation stuff. And then from 9 to 5 working there. And then from like 6 to midnight, I'm working at the studio. Not 7 days a week, but a lot.
Yes.
And then at both full days
Saturday,
on the weekends.
Sunday.
And when she said that, I was like, damn, like that's totally true. And my mom, when I was just home, she's like, why is she like still with you essentially?
Yeah. She's a really hardworking overachiever, not overachiever, but
yeah,
like
and
high,
she's extremely independent and has
successful,
super good social network.
So she could survive without little old Nettie.
Yeah, but I will say that, you know,
it floored you a little.
No, well, I think it is completely reasonable to want to spend time with your significant others during the weekend, during the day. And for a year that wasn't happening. And the sort of ability to overwork myself specific to the art stuff. And when it was base jumping, it was that. Like it was just going all the time to do that. And then I talk about this, this is the metaphor I gave, which was like, you remember in Indiana Jones where in the beginning, there's the golden statue on the pressure plate.
Yes.
And then he has the sandbag and he's like, he like switches them.
Yes.
Like that is the metaphor for base jumping in art. Base jumping was the golden statue.
The thing that filled your
like I needed to
horizon.
Yeah. So I needed to like pretend, like in my brain, pretend that there was something that filled that void.
Yeah.
And the sort of all of my like singular interests energy went into the art then. But sort of and that's I've been like rewarded for that bad behavior in a huge way, in that like I've had this like growth, I've had like a monetary reward, I've had like an emotional reward from it, because like I have all this, I know what I'm going to do every day, I'm like so excited to go to the studio every day, all this stuff. The sort of downside of that is that it like it can have a detrimental effect on the people, like your friends, your family,
and you said your girlfriend, obviously. Yeah.
And so that's something that I'm currently sort of struggling with, and I'm kind of curious how you balance those things in terms of how do you do the things that you want to do and achieve the things you want to achieve while also maintaining things outside of your interests.
Right. Well, I think I only recently have gotten better at it. I've also recently started dating a girl. It's been like 5 months, and that was a huge new experience for me to open up my world and life and time to be with someone else. But I don't know, dude, like I'm not like I go through the same things, but I don't think I have the answers. Like it's just a balance. I mean, but the thing is, it's like,
how do you create this balance?
Well, the thing is, it's like, yeah, maybe you want to make a balance because if you like your girlfriend a lot, you want to be fair, but also it's like being great takes great sacrifice. I also believe that. Like, so it's just what you want to do at the end of the day. And like, can you give 2 more hours per day to your girlfriend? Probably. Is it going to affect your art? Probably not. If it does, it does.
That's a good point.
I don't know. That's too a little robotic and tough love, but I don't know. Like,
although it's kind of like asking.
Well, here's another thing. It's like, you maybe don't know, like what, maybe let's do a thought experiment. What if the next 3 big projects you do over the course of the next maybe 2, 3, 4 months, what if they don't get a bunch of viewership? What if all that stuff comes crumbling down? Will you continue to grind like there's no tomorrow on the art and have the unbalance, or will that in turn make you less into it, therefore freeing up your life to other things? You know, it's like, I don't know. I think it's all circumstantial. You're riding this huge wave of intense opportunity. So it's like, why would you want to stop, lay off the throttle? I don't know. I guess I'm steel manning your argument.
What does steel manning mean?
Like playing the devil's advocate, like arguing for something.
Like you're doing the opposite. I feel like this is like me asking, like we're at a bar and I'm like trying to get sober and I'm like, should I stop drinking? And I ask my alcoholic friend, because like, let's be honest,
you're
like,
really funny when you're drunk. I don't think you should stop drinking. I love hearing.
I mean, because you suffer from the same ailment that I do. And so it's like, this is this echo chamber. We're both like, oh, this is the reasons we need to do all this stuff. Right. It's like, well, I don't know. I think also there's something to be said about having, like, I don't come up with ideas when I'm in the studio. It's like I work on ideas when I'm at the studio. I come up with ideas when I'm like at dinner and I'm like talking to my friends and like just like living a normal life. And so the idea that you could just be executing all the time is ridiculous.
No, it's ridiculous. But you're like you said, you're still more, your time frame is a lot shorter. Like you're still sort of in the beginning stages. Like Sunday Nobody wasn't a thing a year ago, or was it over a year? Anyways,
a year and a couple months.
A year and a couple months. So that's like not a lot of time. Like you're still figuring out. I've had 3-4 years to figure it out. And here's something I could give. I just thought of that's very contextual and specific to me. The only thing I can give, like me putting so much energy into executing and making and working projects, the more I rely on the success to equal the input. So if my output doesn't equal it, I get bogged down, and then that sort of
say that last bit again.
Like my input of work and effort,
if that doesn't translate to a direct success
output, like
then
work equals success,
that bums you out.
Yeah, then it bums me out, and so I'm sort of married to the idea that that's the equation when that shouldn't be the equation. Also, the more time I try to free up, the more things I like to do. So like I like to do so many things now that aren't painting or videography. Like I love playing Magic the Gathering now. I actually really enjoy like going to plays or reading. So I have all these other things I want to do that I'm like, wow, I didn't even know I liked these things because the last 4 years I was so hyper focused.
But I don't.
Right, but you're maybe,
anything else.
But you don't know yet. Like, I mean, you're an adult and you have a life, but like, I'm saying you're just in the thralls of this first year explosion. You're in like the honeymoon stage, maybe. Maybe not though.
Well,
maybe not.
I only have like 2 data points.
Dude, but I don't believe that.
No, I mean 2 data points in terms of like how I've interacted with my hobbies. But basically I had 7 years, like most of my adult life, where I did one thing. I just base jumped. That was it. That was the only thing I was ever interested in doing. That was it.
I do believe that, but it's also like you have other interests, right?
Yeah, I would like go to the movies with friends and hang out. But like I would say conservatively, probably like 70% of my mental anything went into that, which is like insane and like not healthy. And now,
but do you actually think it's not healthy, or you just think the idea of it is unhealthy? Like, are you an unhealthy person? Even when your girlfriend said that thing about not hanging out, like, is your real life really that, bogged down, or is it really a detriment, or is it just the idea?
No, I mean, like
from normal life.
If I lived in a, like on an island, and I was just like me, like I'd be pumped on the way I'm like, I'm living precisely, and those 7 years I was base jumping, living precisely the life that I wanted to live.
Yeah.
But as I get older, I'm like, okay, I don't live in a vacuum. I need to start recognizing how my actions affect other people.
Yeah.
And I don't want to negatively affect other people's lives. When I was younger, I was like, I don't really give a shit. Like if you
I'm gonna do what I want. Don't really have to like report to anyone.
Well, yeah, especially with the base jumping. People be like, this is causing me a lot of stress. I'd be like, well, like this is something I'm doing. So like basically like get used to it, which is not like a super kind way of interacting. And so I don't want to make that same mistake with the art stuff, which is, I know this about myself, which is like I have like a super intense magnifying glass when it comes to my interests. And I want to figure out, okay, like how do I achieve the things I want to achieve and, do the projects that I'm proud of and all this stuff. But at the same time, like take weekend bike rides with my girlfriend and like keep maintaining a social life.
People listen to me like, you freak of nature, just do that then.
Yeah, I know.
Do
Stop
it.
talking about it.
No,
but
I really do get what you're saying.
I think you relate to this, which is, it's like telling a dog to let go of a chew toy.
Yeah,
it's like they want to play fetch, but they just won't let go of the ball.
And they'll do it till like, or same with labs. Like my lab will literally eat a whole bag of kibble until it like kills itself because it's just.
Yeah. And this is like sort of the addict mentality that we were talking about before, which is like in some ways it's this huge superpower where it's like we have the ability to focus insane amounts of energy and to like a massive comment that I get on my project is like, I could never. I would give up before it even started. And I'm like, just finish it. What do you mean? And like, I would get like sort of angry. I'd be like, what do you mean?
Yeah,
like,
right?
just do it.
Just
and then
build
just
a sarcophagus.
And my brother's older friend is this amazing guy from Sweden, named Axel. And he ran a marathon off the couch. And I was like, Axel, what was that like? And he's just like, oh, it's easy.
He ran a marathon off the couch?
Yeah, just like without training. He just like
got
off the couch and did it. And he was like, I was like, was that hard? He's like, no, you just run.
Yeah.
And then you just keep running.
Right. So his internal resolve is
but
strong.
he didn't see it that way. He was just like, just keep running.
Right.
And that was sort of, I think for the first like 6 months of my doing art, when all these people were commenting like, I could never, I have the like whatever. I was like, what do you mean? Just like do it and then just do it again until it's done.
Right, but that's
that's so dumb.
They're just they're honestly, I mean, no offense to people, they're just horrible comments. They're just horrible things to say because it makes no sense. It's like you didn't just like wake up and do all that stuff. It was your whole life and history that led to this point with expertise and experience.
No, I'll push back and say that I actually think those are helpful in that they illustrate that like things that I've taken for granted.
Right.
The things that I recognize that like I think have contributed positively to where I am now. Mm-hmm. This is the double-edged sword, that there are components of them that are really detrimental to me, but they're also really positive. Mm-hmm. Super low activation energy, like not like going from paper idea to going to Home Depot to buy materials is like 10 seconds basically. to put no forethought into that. Mm-hmm. Where I do see a lot of my friends being like, well, I have this idea, but I'm not totally sure. And I'm like, you should do it. And
those aren't doer people. You're a doer.
Yeah. And
not negatively or negatively. It's just like you do.
So low activation energy. That's great.
I like how you say that, but it doesn't make sense in my brain. Low activation energy.
Like
to activate on the idea, it takes you not a lot of energy.
Like a very
What's another way we could say that eloquently? Even though yours is very eloquent, it just doesn't bode well with me.
Like a very not I don't overthink,
like a easy start, quick start,
a quick start oven.
No, yours is nicer. Sorry,
I like quick start oven.
I just didn't get it at first. Low activation energy.
Like in a chemical,
it makes you sound lazy.
Like in a chemical reaction, like you don't need to superheat the solution. You just like maybe like throw a match in there and it goes.
I totally get it. I'm harping.
And so things that I think I do appreciate my personality, which I don't feel like these are just things that like I was born with. I don't think I was like developed these skills really. Yeah. Maybe through my environment. Like I know people in my life that have also are this way, but yeah, low activation energy, sort of irrational optimism. My dad has that big time where he'll like
blind optimism.
Yeah. Where he'll just be like, he'll fail on a bunch of different projects to like, fail. And then I'll be like, what do you think? Like, what's going to happen with this next project? Like, I'm going to hit this one out of the park. And then in a lot of ways that I think is like completely required. I forget who said this, but it was like, especially in creative endeavors, there needs to be some level of delusional like optimism.
It is blind optimism.
And so I think I do have that where I'm just like, I feel like, okay, I can probably do this project if I want to, if I'm like capable and it's within my like financial limitations that I have with my job and stuff. And then maybe the third being like task completion. Mm-hmm. Those like I'm really bad at leaving tasks uncompleted. Mm-hmm. And so those three things I recognize contribute like in a huge way to how I'm able to do the things I'm doing. But I think I had a hard time recognizing those things, because each of those has a negative component to them. And so I focused on the negatives. And then the other thing being, I didn't recognize that not everyone had those. And so when people would like DM me or comment or whatever, and they would be like, oh, I started, but then I didn't finish. I'd be like, why? Like, or like someone would like a teen from a school. It was like I was like communicating with him about like this project he was doing, and he was like, I need your like advice. And I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, you should do this, this, and this. And then like, but he didn't end up doing that. And it made me like so sad. I was like, why? Like, doesn't this kill you? Like, can't you? Mm-hmm. And I think, just recognizing that everyone's brain is wired differently. And just because your brain or my brain is like wired in a very specific way to execute on these tasks doesn't mean, and I know you're a big proponent of when people are like, you're just born with your talent as an artist. And you're like, fuck off. Because like you've put so much effort into being able to, do
practice.
Yeah, practice. And so I do appreciate that there is a lot of skill and time and energy that you've put into this. But I will also say that I think that there is a component of
my attributes that I was born with that create
allow you to sit down and just like grind. I
consider myself lucky. I don't know if you like, you're saying all these things as if they're bad. Like I totally, dude. I totally feel lucky with
in terms of like
character
the
traits.
The like
Absolutely.
your Sims.
So they're detrimental, but like you got to be like a really uncontrolled person to like mitigate those defaults. Like, yeah, sure.
No,
like,
I think, yeah.
Like you're lucky. I'd say you're just lucky.
Yes, absolutely. In many ways. And I don't mean to, I guess.
And you could also learn those skills. Like character traits aren't just black and white, like tattooed into you and you have it or don't. Like you can learn those things just like you can unlearn bad character habits, which hopefully we're all trying to do. We got to move on, dude. Okay? Like it's been an hour and a half. We haven't talked about any of your projects.
Okay. Hit me with them. I'm ready.
And maybe I'm
also, I feel like this is just like the entire podcast would be like, this personality trait I've got is not so good.
I'll be like, are you okay, dude? Like, you wanna
yes,
like
I am
lobotomize yourself or what?
Extremely happy with, it's my foot.
Okay, I thought it was an extra microphone actually.
Extremely happy with the cards that I've been dealt.
And also to just third person perspective, you've only done this for a year. Who knows how those character traits are going to pan out, right? Like you had it with your base jumping and you're drawing these lines and threads that are similar. Completely agree. You know yourself better than anyone, but give your Sunday Nobody a few more years. Who knows what's going to happen, how you're going to evolve internally.
Check back in 3 years.
We're going to have another one hopefully in a year.
Great.
If this will upload one day.
The Billie Eilish yearly.
Yeah, I like that. At first
thing.
I didn't like it and I was like, fuck her and fuck this thing. It's so dumb
and
gimmicky.
I love it.
Now I'm like, this is really cool.
No, it's so fun. It's
like a video log.
Yeah, it's like a video diary.
Yeah, no, I was just a hater. I do it a lot. But all right, can we talk about your summer projects? I just want to talk about the projects.
Hit me.
Because they're so cool. Let's just talk about them. B-movie, or we talked about Shrek briefly.
Do you want to go in...
Kind of.
What do you want to ask me about them? What's your best way?
I want to ask, because I hate the inspiring question. What inspired you? But it's also like
I can show you.
Yeah, I also just want to, from your thinking, let's just go from a chronological order, because you don't have a countless amount. You have what, 6 or 7 main bangers, maybe more.
Let's look.
Yeah.
So we've got number 1. Writing down all of Shrek with a robot.
Such a banger. A classic. Instantly a classic.
Okay. Number 2, we've got painting with a GIF. Painting a GIF. So I made 4 big paintings. Like,
yep.
I don't know, like that
bigger
size.
Bigger than that.
Yeah, pretty big. And made it so that when you look at each painting one after another, it turns into
stop motion
the GIF
dancer
of Rickroll.
4 frames.
Yep.
That one was cool, but I wouldn't say it's your high caliber banger.
Yep. Number 3 was a True National Treasure, and that was
cool.
Making a huge, like the size of that wall, white or like a big huge canvas with like a super ornate gold frame that just had a tiny little QR code in the middle that linked to the movie National Treasure.
Right. And so let's talk about this, because this is like the first semblance of this sort of interactive. I don't know how to wrap my brain around it, because it's like a video of a real tangible project that's so large and almost unnecessarily awesomely large.
Oh, no, certainly, which we then sent to the across the country. So that so then there's the whole big thing, and then we sent it. Who's we? It's me. Me. Like
my team.
My team.
Mike and Ike.
I sent it across to New York, actually, to one of the directors of the MoMA as a joke.
Wow, did you even mention that, huh?
I did.
Did you?
It's in the video.
Oh.
It's at the end where like randomly we with a big spinning thing, I like shot a Nerf gun and it landed on one of the directors, and they sent it back. Obviously, they were like, "Dude, we can't, liability. Like, what are you doing? We can't like take this massive piece of meme art." But that's like all part of the fun of it is to send it, and then it's
so funny. I forgot about that. I actually was thinking of the same thing. I was thinking of this Medusa character, actually, I was thinking of like making a really intricate box, putting it, and somehow figuring out Cause, the artist Cause, finding out his address, no, that's the...
Am I crazy? At some point,
You're right, it fell.
Okay.
It did fall. Yeah, that's also Dean's version of the Cause guy, Dean Sache. Shout out, Dean. Yeah, me too. I was like, where the fudge is it? Anyways, I was like obsessed with him. I was like, if I send him this elaborate, like sick painting and this elaborate unboxing, like
with a lock of your hair.
Yeah. And like he's based in Brooklyn. His studio's in Brooklyn. So I was like, I'm gonna like camp out and like find him and like find where he like exits an entrance and like put it there, and then he'll hit me up. And I never followed through with it, but it was a pipe dream.
So talking about follow through, why didn't that idea come to fruition?
The thing is, like, I don't have those big thoughts a lot. Because for me, when I have, like, Jimmy Neutron brain blast of ideas, like, it will either be, like, on the train, in a car.
You don't write them down?
No, I do. I do write them down. Not only do I write them down, I'll film myself saying exactly what it's going to be, the time and place I thought of it, so I could, like, bring it back when I execute it. And I did that for, like, this podcast. Like,
you have like a notes app? Where do you keep these ideas?
I do voice memos if I don't have a camera. So actually recently I was at my grandma's over the holidays, and we just got to my grandma's old home, and we were going in to have lunch. I was like, Mom, I'm going to be here for a minute because I have to like jot this down. And I just like did like a 2-minute voice memo of like all the project. Anyways, it's not a big deal. It's just funny because I that's a great idea, sending it to like the MoMA person, like this idea. I just had the same.
Well, so speaking of, I get that question a lot, which is like, where do you come up with these ideas, And the answer is this.
Right, you showed me. Wait, we got to blur this out.
Why?
This is G14 classified, dude.
Dude, people can watch it.
I know, I'm kidding.
So
you won't be able to see, probably. It's so small.
I'm
blurring it out. So it's just a thread of thoughts of ridiculous ideas. Let's read a couple.
Well, so some backstory to this, which is I have a mental rule, which is if I ever think of an art idea, I have to write it down. Like there's no, oh, this is really good, or oh, this is the worst idea I've ever had. Like it goes in the list no matter what. And the time doesn't matter either. I also need to write it down. So it'll be like 3 a.m. and I'll like stumble out of bed to go to the bathroom and I'll like think of something and I'll be like, fuck, I need to like blast my eyes with the phone.
I like that.
But so sometimes I'll wake up the next day and just be like, that is incoherent. I don't even know what that means. Like number 57 is just chicken organ, like the instrument organ. I was like, I don't know what that means.
But you have some sort of context when you write it down, but maybe you don't remember the detail or breadth of it.
But some of them are more more engaged or more flushed out, like painting, going to Home Depot every day and getting 1 free color sample tile and then making a huge painting from it.
That's a great idea.
After like a year.
That's a great idea.
But then other stuff is just like 159. I just said mimes, lol. 158 is a 1-stair escalator. Like just things I like think so would be funny. Fun. But like number 142 is just Ohio. So some of them are like much more flushed out.
Did you have this list during National Treasure Time?
Yeah, but I'm at like in the hundreds now. It's probably like, that was my 3rd project. It's probably had like 40 ideas.
Okay, so again, let's just look back a little. After the success of Shrek,
a retrospective.
Yeah, after the success of the Shrek thing, did all of this start flooding? You're like, wow, now I want to do more projects like this. Like, did you use the Shrek as like, again, we're only retrospectively looking back. We can break this down. But after that, did you break it down? It's like, what worked with this? Did I enjoy it? How can I frame a different project within the same sphere? Is that what you did or no?
We've talked about this, which is I had a level of unsureness about classifying what I did as meme art, which is I was like, damn, do I really want to like put myself in such a box? Maybe I just want to make a heartfelt video. Yeah. And it doesn't have anything to do with memes. It's not a joke. It's just like, do I want to limit myself in that way? And then I was like, you know what? Sure. I like I like having some boundaries of what I think I think boundaries are a good way to be creative. And then B, if I want to do something like, it's not a dead set rule. Like I could make like dance bear video with the stencils.
Yeah,
that's not like super memey.
No, that's exactly what I was going to go to.
Yeah. And so it's not really that constrictive. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'm down with having, I think it's a good way to describe what I make.
Yeah.
And so I'm fine with it. And so, yes, after the Shrek video, I was like, okay, what are like internet-centric ideas that have a physical component that I can make a video that comes along with it that I think people would enjoy watching? And there's hopefully some level of user participation, because all that stuff is what, like, that is all the stuff that I like.
Yes.
And so,
well put.
Just putting all that together.
Well put. That's great. That's such a period. We could just like, that's a great
period.
I should have said that in the beginning of my thing. I might be chopping this podcast up to like give context in other places because it's all over the place, but in a very wonderful way.
Well, I will say that the sort of insane non-linear process is like, I think people relate to it. I think you should. This is my.
I won't touch it. We'll just let it go.
Which is like seeing how like not neurotic and insane this all is the most.
That's fine. That's fine with me.
Honest.
Okay, bears.
So
big viral. Big viral.
Well, we
Dancing
had
bears.
I think it's important to talk on failures too.
Okay, please.
Which is I did the Shrek, then I did the Rickroll dancing, National Treasure. Then I did, and those three I was like had a very prescribed way of making them, which is like, this is how I made this thing, and I did this thing, then I did this, cut out this wood, and I did this thing, and then there's the final product at the end. Right. It's like, and the structure was the same, which was like an essay, which was how they taught us in school. Tell them what you're going to tell them.
5-paragraph essay.
Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you told them.
Yeah.
And that's what these videos are. You know, it's like the structure is the exact same. And on the third one where I made the apparently kid where he's like each word
apparently,
and it like is super long. I have to show you this one.
Wait, is this a draft?
No, this is a full project. But this is the first one I did where it didn't align with
your formula before. Okay, I remember seeing that.
I remember thinking like, I don't want to feel so constrained.
Yeah.
And this one was like a failure in terms of, and that's such a loose term.
In what category? In the viewership?
Sure. In viewership.
Or how you felt about it?
I think how I felt about it is tied to viewership.
Right. Or even the video, how the final video came out.
No, I think it's the amount of people, the audience that it reaches. I don't, and this is something I'm unpacking and trying to work on, is that a large metric for success of a project in my mind is if it reaches an audience or not. And I just want to make stuff that people like.
Yeah, no, I know.
And I don't even mean like, don't forget to like and subscribe, like that sort of like. I just mean like, I just want people to enjoy it.
And relate to it. And I think, first of all, yes, they do. I know that about you. And it's actually different from what I do because I'm a little more selfish in that. I just want to make things I like. And hopefully people like them, of course. And maybe that's a detriment to myself. No. But comedy, memes is like the unspoken language of the internet for a reason, because it is relatable in their wackiness. And so your framework under the same guidelines does really make people happy. So I think that I'm
a hero.
No, you're not a hero, but you found a truly flowing river of the vehicle to make people happy within the things that you also like, that in turn reach a lot of people. I don't know what I was saying.
Okay. Sure. If you say so. I mean, I think that it's unhealthy to have your like mental health tied to social media performance.
Of course.
It's just like, it's not a way to like live.
But also like, let's not be naive here. Eventually you're looking to maybe quit your full-time job, this become your job. Like there's all these other things that you have to, like, everything can't just be like, fra la la, I'm doing this. Like, I want to penetrate. Obviously I want 1 billion people to see it rather than 1 million. How can I make 1 billion people see it? What is the most efficient way to use the app TikTok to get the amount of people? So it's like, these are all real things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And
you're not just a hero.
And I think part of the reason I've kept my 9-to-5 job so long is that I like not needing to monetize every project.
That helps you.
Huge. Is like, I don't need to, like, I'm my own patron because I just funnel all of my income from my job to my art stuff. And so that's how I'm able to pay for the studio. That's how I'm able to pay for all the supplies and all that stuff. It's now slowly getting changing as like I made money on the bear stencils, how I told about the Flaming Hot Cheetos.
Yeah, you told me, which was insane. We had actually talked a lot about that. Do you remember?
Which about
like what you want to do with the Flaming Hot Cheetos, and I was very bullish. If you remember.
We'll get to that when we get to the project. But yes, I mean I agree that there's a variation between how much I
have a question. Have you ever started a new project, maybe say before the Bears? Did you have a few in the air, like, what should I do? I really want to do this one, but I think this one would do better via the internet. Did you ever have that debate? No? Okay.
No, because I'm not, and we talked about this a little bit before, which is, okay, there's maybe like 200 on Instagram and maybe 200 on TikTok, that 200,000 people on each of those that would potentially see the stuff I make. Well, maybe just because of the way the algorithms work. But if I thought about when I'm trying to figure out what project to do, 400,000 people, it's just not like it's paralyzing. I'm never like caused me like intense.
Right.
Like
I don't necessarily mean like what those individual people want, but in saying like, is this narrative a stronger algorithm penetrator than this other one?
Well, I mean, what is an algorithm other than just a bunch of people and like what they want to see, which is. No, I think
so. Assuming you know what the algorithm wants.
That's what these projects have shown me, is that I have no ability to predict.
No one does, bro. Except clearly Mr. Beast. Fuck him.
But what I'm saying is like that project that we were just showing with the Apparently Kid, like, was the first one that underperformed to sort of a much higher degree than other videos that I'd had, and I was like, oh my god, this is. It was a really helpful experience because it showed me I don't have any ability to dictate or predict which is going to be successful. So there's no point in me trying to pick a project that I think will do well. It's like, I'm not going to pick project A over project B because I don't have any ability to predict those. And so it's stupid to be like, I'm going to pick project A because it's going to do better. It's like, no, I've picked two projects that I've picked completely independently of each other. I'm like, A is gonna be way better.
Yeah, and it's different.
And it's like, nope, actually B, like, people relate to way more. So I don't pick based on what I think people will like. I just exclusively pick about like that very small group of people, my brothers, some close friends. Good. I'll be like, what can I do?
And they're a good barometer.
Yes, they are my true north.
They're like oiled dipstick
in a car.
Yeah,
engine oil. Yes.
Right.
Great.
All right, let's keep going. Also, just anecdotally, the Bears project was the first project I saw of yours, and I saw it just through the algorithm. I didn't follow you before, and I'm like a painter. Also, stencil was like sort of the DNA of my work for a while. Huge love for stencils, and I saw that, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Just immediately, that's all it was like, wow, this project is fucking awesome. It should be viral. The amount of time and work that went into it was epic. Squeezed down. Everything about it was just, I don't know, not perfect, or it was just top tier. Everything was great. And I was like, who the frick is this? And I remember seeing it way before you hit me up. Mm-hmm. And anyways, that's just the first one I saw.
Later. Well, I'm about to one-up you. I've been a fan forever. So
right.
I remember thinking like, damn, what? I'd been following you with your, okay, here's a real hype up for you.
Let's get it.
Which is, and this is the power of the internet. I love the internet.
Yeah, the internet's
so much. Sick. The internet is, I'm like the biggest fan of the internet.
It's also my biggest demon.
Yeah, well, once again, if this is the common theme of the podcast, is like with great benefits comes amazing or terrible flip sides. Yes. And so I don't want this podcast to sound like me just like complaining and pointing out all these really terrible things. But I think it's important to like, on so many podcasts, people are it's like, I did this shit and I'm sick and I'm like just killing the game.
But
and
a lot
like,
of these podcasts that we watch are like really famous, like big people. We're just like schmoes.
Yeah.
Which I love way more.
Yeah. But I think it's helpful to when people are open and transparent about like, yes, these great things have happened to me. Mm-hmm. And here are sort of the costs of that.
Totally. People don't usually talk about the costs.
Yeah. And so that's all I wanted to talk about. I don't remember what we were talking about.
How you found me, but I don't really care about that, honestly.
No, like, I'll just really quickly hype you up, which is that a huge reason that I got the studio was because of you.
Oh, really?
Yes, because
did you watch my moving in and the transition?
Yes.
Really?
No, not this one. Your old studio.
Yeah.
Because of you being like my age and being like, oh, I just like made an art studio. I was like, that kid on YouTube did it.
Truly
I
similar.
can do this.
Truly similar.
And that's like why the internet is amazing, is because for people like us, we have examples in our lives of people that are like, if you want to do this, you can. But if you live in Arkansas, in like rural ass Arkansas, you don't necessarily have people in your direct community that if you want to go move to New York and like have an art studio, it's just, that's so far beyond probably what you're exposed to. Mm-hmm. And so for you to then post online and be like, here is the full process and all the nitty-gritty details that I had to go through about getting the space, that's super helpful. I really love that. And that was very helpful for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. And I took the exact same route for other people.
Who was your inspiration?
I don't even know if I could tell one, but what I do know is just from such a young age, people having their own space, a designated creative space, which in my life before that main first big studio in Bridgeport,
Can I guess?
What
your space before your?
Yeah, sure.
Was it?
I mean, it was on YouTube. Yeah, and like
that's how much I know SLEW.
No, it is true. And then before that, it was like my room where I would take apart Nerf guns, or I would fingerboard, and I would still film things. So and that creative space. Yeah, wait. Let me see if I can pop a kickflip first try. No way. No, embarrassing. Not even try. Cut that. That's also a really shitty tactic, but
Classic. A bad carpenter blames his tools.
Yeah, but that's sort of, I've always had that. I'm the only boy in my family. I have 3 sisters. You know, I didn't have a dad growing up.
Your mom sounds like the real MVP.
Yeah, she totally is. I mean, everything ever is from her. But having my own space to be creative, to work, a designated space actually is super important, especially for the stuff we do. But anyways.
Okay, so
yeah.
Continuing on, what this...
And also for another anecdote, like the space is like a piece of work, right? Especially for you who's only had it for maybe a year, like building a space.
Piece of work, what do you mean?
It's like a project in itself. The studio is a project in itself.
Setting up a studio took far
but
longer
how was it
effort.
enjoyable? Like this, literally building this place was the most enjoyable thing ever.
It's like a tree house.
It's like, yes, it's like a home. It's like your bedroom. It's efficient, it's functional, but it's also a stage for my videos. Like this is my sickest project I think I ever will partake in. And it's a little different.
Push back on that.
That's fine. We're different people.
I don't think that I think that this is an incredible space, but what you've made in here is also really incredible.
Totally.
So, no, for me, it was a lot of stress and like shit stuff. I just wanted to make stuff.
Yeah,
I just wanted to have the studio space set up.
Well, see, like I'm a little, my world is different. I wanted to like make it look cool, you know?
Like a home.
Yes. Okay, moving on. Mm-hmm. Dancing Bears, sick. And then I do remember vividly looking after I saw, also, I think your project was reposted and that's where I saw it. I didn't see it through Sunday Nobody. Mm-hmm. I saw the Bears reposted on like Street Art Globe or some thing.
Okay, that sounds right.
Right, I mean, which stinks, but also it gives you eyeballs.
That's doesn't stink. That's like the power of this is what I love about the internet, which is like you make something and then you put it out and it's not yours anymore in some ways. No, I'm serious.
I know, totally.
It's like the internet is, if nothing else, it's like a sharing platform. Yeah. It's the access to information, and so I, as soon as I put something out there, I'm like, that's not really mine anymore.
See ya.
It's like ideally someone would credit you and say this.
No,
is
I think they did, but I didn't go as far as to click you. But then further down the Rhine, I must have been served it again.
Say the Rhine.
further down the line.
Oh, I thought you meant the Rhine River in Germany. I was like, wow, I've never heard that before.
No, I don't know.
Further down the line.
Further down the line, I saw it, and then I clicked on your thing, and from the Dancing Bears, you only had... I saw the Pixar moms, which I was like, what the fuck? This is so funny and smart. And then I saw the Shrek, and I was like, oh my God, this kid is so dope. And then at that point...
Was that before I hit you up or afterwards?
Very soon before you hit me up. So then when you hit me up, I was like, oh shit. And that's when I'm like, everything was worth it. Like the studio, everything I've ever done. Like cool artists hitting me up. And then we like started talking, and we just became friends. Really, it was a very quick rite of passage, I'd say. Because you did voice chats, and I did voice chats back very soon. And then we FaceTimed. I was like, oh my God, is he gonna be like an acid burn crazy person, or is he gonna be... I'm just kidding.
I will say the benefits of having following on social media is like there's a huge delta between my expectations.
Holy shit, yeah.
And like I thought, like I remember very specifically because I idolized Mike, my friend, had 30,000 when we first started, had 30,000 Instagram followers, and I remember just being like 30,000 people want to see his stuff. Like that's incredible. Like he's making, and it was so deserved because like the stuff he makes is insanely cool. Yeah. And I just remember being like, like if I ever got there, like that would be insane. And lo and behold, I feel the exact same now. It's not like I've transcended into another plane of existence. Like I just feel the same. I don't feel any more content there are components of it that are great. Like you have a very loud microphone. A lot of people are like willing to help you. There are huge benefits to it. But in terms of like filling some hole inside of me, it does not fill. No. But a huge benefit of it that I didn't recognize is that like you can hit up people and they'll respond. Yeah. Not always. Like if I
you can't probably hit up calls.
You know who I did hit up who didn't respond is Daniel Arsham, who's like a cause level pop artist.
I think I do know him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, I had a very specific question about I was like, what Foundry do you use here? And I was like, please respond. And
that's so funny.
But I just think people like...
I wouldn't have responded to you, honestly, probably if you didn't have a lot of followers. And it's not to say... I look at all my DMs.
That or if you hadn't seen the stuff that I made.
Yeah, no. Probably the followers. Like, because also a lot of people hit me up for like advice or what should I do here? And like, I can't just talk to everyone. It's like 20 DMs a day.
I reply to every DM.
Yeah, I used to.
No, actually, that's not true.
I used to, and then it got to a point where it was like taking 2 hours each day.
I try. Yeah, it's a huge time suck. But I like it.
But if they have a lot of followers and I visit their page before responding and see that they're a real deal artist, then I'll strike a discourse because why wouldn't? It's like a colleague rather than a Joe Schmo.
That doesn't feel slightly...
You just feel it doesn't feel fair?
Yeah.
Well, that's just my decision. Yeah. I mean, like... I still do. The thing is, like, I'll DM so many kids. I mean, the amount of videos I've sent in to people for their birthdays, over 100. The amount of interviews I've done for kids in high school and college, probably over 60.
Really?
Yeah. So I am very like active and talk to people a lot, but it can't be every person.
Yeah. It's just too many.
And the people who are legitimate professionals, because there's a difference between a professional and a greenhorn kid.
It's funny. I feel like a greenhorn.
But like, but you know what I'm saying. So I'm more likely to talk shop to a professional. That's what I mean. True. You know, like anyways, I don't have to go down the rabbit hole. That was really honest also. Please don't ask me to do an interview for your high school because I've done countless. Anyways. All right. So let's talk about, I just want to like, when did you get the B movie idea? And like, cause we got to talk about, because we're just talking and I feel like people don't have more context. You have to watch these videos because it's so complex, some of these things. I feel like the B movie was the first hyper complex one in terms of it involved coding, it's
interesting that you say that. That is like a very middle of the road one for me.
Okay, let's go to a different one then. No. Okay.
Why? Tell me why.
Dude, I just think it's so smart and it's easier. Like to a viewer, it's easy to be like, oh, that's cool. But actually getting that done just seems like it took a lot of work. Like it's like these big brain ideas that take big time elbow grease.
The irony that is that was a filler project between. So the Dance Bear took forever because I had to cut out so many stencils. Super fun. But Then the next one was the treasure hunt. That one took forever.
That one
like, took so much planning.
Scary.
The B movie one, I was like, I'm gonna be able to knock this out in a week.
Oh, really?
And it happened in like a couple weeks.
Okay.
That one was it's funny that you say like that's the most complex. It's the most
well, not the most complex. I think it's the most. It had all of the check marks of an awesome project to me because it was interactive.
Because people came and filled it out.
It was extremely smart. It was big scale. I can't believe you also painted out the maze. You could have easily, first of all, used a marker instead of a paintbrush, a dinky paintbrush with acrylic paint.
I didn't totally know that acrylic paint markers existed, but I think honestly,
or just a big Sharpie. Yeah,
I did know. I thought about using a Sharpie and a CNC, but I thought it'd be funnier to do it all by hand.
It was, and that also was like it was an actual canvas. It was a piece of art that he painted that was then going to be used by other people. So all of these things on my mind just hit these levels of like, oh, this is so cool. Oh, this is so smart. And then at the end, you're drawing Barry B. Benson in like a lounging pose. I'm just like, how dumb and genius is this? And I don't mean dumb in a mean way.
No.
I know what I mean.
Totally know what you mean, which is like there's a weird
novel. It's so novel. It's amazing.
There's a massive delta between the amount of effort
delta
I put into a project versus the like worth of a project. Like it doesn't make sense really to put in. I don't know how long that project took. Like a long
you said
time.
2 weeks. You're talking about hours.
Yeah, hours.
Okay.
Like it doesn't make sense to put in so many hours into a project that is objectively like a silly dumb thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a Barry Benson from B movie. Like why are you putting so much hours into it? But I think that is, for whatever reason, I gravitate towards that. And I think other people gravitate towards that too, which is like high commitment to silly ideas.
Yes.
And this is another part of the internet which I love, which is you think that you need to make content or just stuff that is like broadly applicable or broadly has mass appeal. But there's like this inverse correlation, which is in some ways, the more specific you make it,
we were talking about this,
the more it opens it up to other people.
Yeah.
Which is like, if I just made like a football analysis video of like, this is like my take on sports, everyone loves sports.
Yes.
It's like, I don't know. It's not that interesting, but to open it up to everyone, it makes it interesting to no one. And to hyper focus on your specific sense of humor or your specific intricacies and neuroses about like, I just, for whatever reason, I just was like, oh, it'd be fun to sit down and just tediously paint a maze for a week or however long it took. That is engaging to watch.
Totally.
And I like seeing that when I look at other people's videos, and I think it's fun to make those types of videos.
Yeah, no, you nailed it right on the head. That's just one of my favorite projects. It's so funny and so cool. And you said in the video you're shocked with how quickly not only people solved it, but also like you really can see Barry, because that was one of the things that was sort of the unknown. It's like, okay, we did this scale. What is it, like 8 by 6 by 8 feet or something like that? Like that. I mean, you used permanent markers, but it really just worked out. Anyways, moving on, because we only have a few more to go through, so why not just go through them? The whole scavenger hunt, this was another one of these things where I said before, it was more of like the video
was the final product.
Because I don't know how many people participated in the scavenger hunt.
I can tell you, I got a spreadsheet.
Okay, but not everyone got as far as Andy. Was that his name?
Andy for Prez. I think
everyone should watch this video because it is brain rattling.
I don't think this podcast would. I think you have to have seen these videos for this podcast to be interesting, but that's okay.
Yeah, but I mean, especially the first hour of this podcast. But no, it's true. And hopefully the clickbaity title will really wrangle people in.
God, I'm worried.
What was the start of that project? Because this one is not super different, but like
different.
Clearly immense prep.
Yes.
In a organized, linear fashion. And so
the metaphor I have for this one, which I was talking about this recently with someone, which is why I was thinking about it, which is, you've seen Forrest Gump. This is my second movie metaphor. Get ready.
What was the first one?
Indiana Jones Bag of Sand.
Oh, I love that one.
We've got Forrest Gump, which is a crowd favorite movie. There's that scene in it where he's running across the country and just he's like kind of an idiot just running across the country, and all of a sudden people start following him and like assign like value to this thing. Like he's running across the country, like it's this thing. But at the end of the day, he's like kind of just an idiot running across the country. I don't mean to be mean to Forrest, but that's a little bit how I felt like at this project, which is like, I'm kind of an idiot in a lot of ways. Like I wouldn't say I'm smart. I would just say that I have like a very thin set of skills, like video editing and like some like making stuff.
Yes.
But then all of a sudden, like I was looking at my inbox and it would be like, insane people were hitting me up, be like, when is the second challenge coming out? And I was like, oh God, I'm not prepared. Like these people are following me and I'm like just an idiot running across the country. Like I don't understand how this group followed me because I released the first of the 3 challenges.
You may be an idiot, but your projects aren't.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's all subjective, but it's still
to make things that are better than you are. But I made the first.
You're not an idiot, though.
Thanks. I made the first challenge, and I was like, this will take people a bit to figure it out. Like, okay, no, Andy solved it so fast, and people really quickly were like, we need the second challenge. Like, where is this?
Where were you posting these, by the way? On Instagram?
What was how did I?
Because that's what I'm saying. It's not on your TikTok.
Oh, you know, I had
Oh, you deleted them?
No. I had sprinkled them throughout other projects. In the projects coming before that.
Wait, really?
Yeah, like at the Dance Bear one, I had like done the first clue for the this was like a super long.
Yeah, right. Okay, I do remember.
Slow burn thing. Because I knew I wanted to do a treasure hunt video, so I basically like put in small bits into the previous videos. And
so crazy.
But I was also working on other projects, so I wasn't doing it full time. And I did the first challenge, and I was like, I made this thing pretty hard. Like, it'll take people a bit, and I'll have time to come up with the second challenge. No. Like, people solved it immediately. Oh. And my inbox ended up being filled with, like, people that it was like really intimidating to finish the second challenge because it'd be like, Google artificial intelligence lab researcher like David blah 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 is like hitting you up, or like it'd be like a full set of grad students like being like, we're like physics grad students and we like really need the second challenge to come out. And so I was just like, damn, like there's all these like insanely smart people, like how am I possibly gonna make something that is challenging to them when like I'm not that smart? And this is why I love the internet, which is there's just so much information and resources and help out there that just with a lot of effort, you can make things work. And so I just put in a lot of effort and time into designing the challenge, and lo and behold, I still got annihilated by Andy because he's like this.
But it was pretty hard. I mean, I don't know what Andy's up to or what's good with his head, but like it's pretty insane that he did all that.
Yes,
because I'm thinking about this shit. I don't think I would have gone past the first one. I mean,
no, maybe, but Andy's like a different, you know, where there's certain
breed.
Yeah, certain people that you can tell that they're cooking with different ingredients. Yeah, he's certainly that way. Different. He's also like he's like 19 or something.
So clearly a savant. But epic project, like people should really do that. It's not my favorite style video. Like if I was like being just like black and white, being like, what's my favorite
of these? You mean?
Yeah,
it's not mine either.
But it's undoubtedly impressive, quick, and just so in your face, convoluted in such a good way. Like it's just undisputedly impressive.
Thanks. Something talking about sort of insecurities or trying to figure out a voice or a style, which is like the internet has certain things. You were just talking about a clickbaity title. Yeah. There are certain things about the internet which I don't love. Yeah, of course, it's like anything. Mm-hmm. And one of them is sort of there's like a face that you have that's you, and then there's like your internet persona, which is like maybe I'll talk like this in real life, and then in a video I'll be like, hey guys, welcome to the episode. No,
you don't talk like that. I do.
But what I'm saying is like that's like a product of the internet, which is people say if you want your video to be successful, you need to be energetic and you need to like have this, and the title needs to be this, and the thumbnail needs to be this, and you need to have like your green screen face, and you get all this specific stuff that we've been told. And I think with that video, or with all these videos, honestly, it's trying to figure out, okay, like how do I want to interact with people on the internet? And I mean interact. It's like a sort of a one-way street because I'm posting stuff and then they watch it. But this video, when I was making it, I was like, is this too much like, the way that I talk in that video is not how I talk in real life. Right. It's much more like this thing happened, then this thing happened, then this thing happened. Totally. And I like, of the videos I've made, I like the videos more that are just me being like, this is what I did. Yeah. And then this is what I did.
You're basically dictating the process.
Yeah, and it just feels a bit more genuine.
No, but I like, I wasn't trying to rip on it at all when I said it wasn't my favorite. Like, I kind of regret saying that, but you know what I meant.
Jerk. No, and well, I think that's important.
It was just very different than the Maker Man that I love.
Yes, the Maker Man that you love.
But that being said, like, it just adds to the repertoire of your videos. Like, if you just say year one as Sunday Nobody, this is what you made. Like, what a wonderful myriad of styles and videos that you should be proud of.
Can I ask you
seriously? No. Yes.
Which is something I have put a lot of thought into, and I'm kind of curious what your take is to what extent do you think that there should be, and don't say whatever you think, I'll kill you. What extent should there be variation in your style of video in terms of like, I'm trying to think of a couple of examples, but like several of these projects the ideas are totally different, but the structure and the narrative and all that is almost identical. It's like, I did this thing. Here's what I did. Here's how I did it. And here's how I did. Here's at the end, I'll show you again what I did. That structure is the same. I love that. I made that structure because that's what I like to watch. But
it's also kind of rational.
Yeah. And it just like makes sense logically. Yeah. But to what extent should you stick to a prescribed, and I don't mean that negatively, prescribed set of structures in terms of the way that you present stuff?
You don't want me to answer?
I do want you to answer. I want you to give me your opinion on how much you think it's or the pros and cons of having a sort of regimented and
I mean, it's just such an open-ended question. You're not going to like my answer. Like, are you saying that to have a successful business online, or to feel creatively fulfilled as an artist, or like? That's a good question. Because it's both. It's whatever you want. If the formula works and you enjoy it,
I'll narrow it down. I'll narrow it down more, which is to create a long-lasting and interesting catalog of work.
Okay, you're saying that hopefully
is it
people
boring?
Yes,
if you just continually be like, and this is how I did this. Okay, my next project. And this is how I did this.
I don't think it's boring. And I'll tell you why.
As long as the projects themselves are different.
Because we are really dissecting these to a point where it's like an archetypal, like, baseline formula. No one's watching those videos thinking about that. I'm serious, and it's not a bad thing. Like, people are like sort of mindlessly scrolling and being entertained and enthralled, but they're just thinking about, Cheetos, he built 3,000 pounds. Like, why would he do? No one's being like, well, this format seems sort of the same. So I'll say that, and I think that's true. But that's still being true. It can get stale, because the internet is horrible and nothing's impressive anymore. To impress the internet, if you do the same thing for a year, people are going to recognize you, and then they will be unimpressed. Like, so that is true, but
that's a really interesting point, which is
true, bro.
Especially, I will say it's an increasing level millennial. It's Gen Z, then millennials, right? Millennials
I actually don't know.
Are younger.
I never learned it. Boomers are the old people. That's all I know.
I just get millennials and Gen Z confused. I think millennials are the
Gen Z is the newest.
Gen Z is the newest.
Gen
Z is my younger brother.
Okay.
Gen Z, I think, specifically millennials to some extent, but I think more Gen Z is something. I was watching a great analytical video on Gen Z humor, on like why memes have changed. This is like, I don't do this much research into memes usually, but there's a video on Gen Z humor and sort of how memes have changed. It was super interesting, and it was talking about how as soon as something becomes recognizable, it's immediately uncool.
Yes, 100%.
And so I'm sort of like, oh man, if you reach a certain level of success, like, does that necessarily mean you're gonna like?
Yeah.
It's the Emma Chamberlain effect, which is
Colin
the
Samir.
More the what is it? The
Colin
more
Samir did the video, but right.
Which is the more relatable you are, the more successful you are. The more successful you are, the less relatable you are.
Yes.
It's just weird.
True, but I don't think that's like, you're too niche for that. And like, art is different. Art is a little more art is just like it's just a thing.
It's not like they're not relating to me
no,
personally.
and I agree with that statement more for like musicians or like celebrity personas, or
I don't want to go to Harry Styles content.
Yeah,
he's like too corporate or
exactly,
whatever.
Things like that. So I would say that we have to end kind of soon.
Don't say that.
Well, it's 4:07. But we still have plenty of time. But I'm just saying we gotta. I don't want to
wrap it up.
No. We have like 20 minutes. I don't want to just hard Looney Tunes you out when the time comes. So I'm giving you the 20-minute warning.
Great.
And we could talk forever, and people still listening miraculously. We talk a lot, and so this is nothing new. But yeah, so I guess the next, we could talk about the sarcophagus and beans, but we don't need to.
We've gone through all these.
But they're my favorite ones. Those are my two favorites.
Sorry, team. Well,
really?
okay, I buried a sarcophagus and made some beans.
It's the best one.
I want to ask you questions.
I was almost pissed of how sick I thought it was when you sent me that. Pre-release, by the way, baby.
No, the beans are out.
No, the sarcophagus, I think you... or one of them you sent me before you posted it. I was like, holy fuck.
Inner circle.
Yeah. But it was so flabbergasting. Go check them out. Anyways, what were you going to say?
I want to ask you questions.
Okay, sure. If you want.
I'm too excited.
No, I'm very excited.
Also,
we probably covered a lot of
what
it.
else? Also, if you got more on your...
No, these are just notes.
Okay.
Let's see if I did actually.
Well, I got one for you.
Okay, go ahead.
While you're reading.
And we could... Yeah, we talked about everything I want to talk about.
Do you think that you are a more content or satisfied person with a more of a following online? Like, are you happier or more? I know happier is kind of a loaded word, but are you more fulfilled now in your life with 322,000 YouTube subs than when you had 322?
Yes and no. Just the thesis of our entire conversation.
Break down.
It's you'd be naive to say it's not awesome, especially for an artist.
Because it's validating.
Yeah, it's validating. You want people to see your art. You want people to like your art. Like these are all really obvious things. I'm not some like hero 0% ego. Like it's all like great. Or even if I post like photo dumps on Instagram, I get a couple thousand likes. People see like funny things I do or whatever. It's obviously great. But the real truth is the amount of viewership has given me opportunity and resource to do bigger scaled, awesomer things. And in the advent of opportunity, I have learned a lot and become a better artist, if that makes sense. So that's the definitely thing. It's like scale raise, you improve, you work harder, you try, you get into a realm, just like surround yourself with like professionals. I got all this opportunity to surround myself in this, big boy playpen where maybe I wasn't as legit or professional, but I became more because I tried and strived for it. Like all these opportunities helped me grow, and I'm super lucky for that. But then the flip side is it's just all shitty, dude. I'm like I hate the viewership. It really bogs me down. Like
the downside is everything sucks.
No, it really is, man. It's like
you really feel that way?
Well, it's
when you say everything, what do you mean?
Not everything. It's like the monetary success, which is the baseline for a lot of people's success, which isn't always mine, but it's also a real thing. Money's real. You gotta, pay for things to live. You gotta pay for all this. When that sort of gets fumbled around and is inconsistent, it stinks. And when you harp on money for success and then you don't get as much money for YouTube, especially, it's all viewership, sponsorship rates, all these things fluctuate a lot. And so it's just a bummer thing that you have to deal with, especially for me. I don't harp on it as much, but I don't think I harp on it any less than anyone else. Like, it's just a real stinker in my life sometimes.
There it is. Double-edged sword that we've been talking about.
But it's awesome, dude. I feel so lucky. But I don't know if I'll do it forever. Like, again, my lease is coming up. I'm going to renew probably for another year. And then after that, I don't know.
This transitions perfectly into my next question, which is insecurities, which is what's something that you feel like you're sort of... I feel like there's different categories of insecurities. There's like insecurities that you're like, well, this is sort of my go-to, which is like, okay, yeah, like I don't, I like my use of my time, like that's an insecurity of mine.
Use of your time, interesting. I used to have that, not as much anymore.
What was like, how am I like spending my time?
Yeah,
like I'm insecure about the idea that like I'm just overworking and like not valuing the people in my life. But so
I used to think that like I don't want to grow old and regret the time I spent as like,
oh, interesting.
I don't want to waste time. Like the scene from Inception. I've said this literally on this podcast before, like being an old man filled with regret.
Yeah.
Or if I like get sick or like I get in a car crash and become a paraplegic, I don't want to regret the free time I had. And that's like very kind of dark and deep. But anyways, continue.
What would you say something about specific to your art and your work and your studio? I don't mean like a insecurity in, well, sure, whatever.
I think sometimes, I don't know if this answers it, but sometimes I think I take myself too seriously and that I portray this like overly serious version of myself and I get insecure.
Serious in what way?
Like sometimes I feel like I take myself too seriously. Like in my videos where like I think I'm an expert or I think... like, cause like there's a lot of like romanticism in storytelling and painting. I don't know if you've done that, but like I love theatrics and I love like drama, not like gossip drama, but like good versus evil, or like this is something really epic and like let's portray this epicness and this really. And
you feel like that is you've like gone too far.
No,
in that
I just
narrative?
feel like I don't think people see it the way I do, obviously, because I'm the creator. And then I feel like people are like, who cares? And I get nervous about that. That's just an insecurity at its baseline.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That's a good one. I mean, I would put
like sometimes I watch my videos from even 6 months ago when I think it's a great project. And that's another thing, being in the pocket when I'm making a video. And like you have all these ideas like, oh, this is what I want to say during this update in the video, or this is how the sort of general flow or narrative of video I want to sort of like constantly crack on. And then you're really into it, and then I upload it, I'm like, yeah, and then literally when I upload it, you kill your baby, you shoot your baby in the backyard. But then I'll rewatch it 6 months later and I'll be like, whoa, like I kind of was like a little too I was trying too hard, maybe. I don't know.
No, we're our own worst critics.
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah. And I'm pretty good at not giving a shit anymore because like
water under the bridge.
Yeah. But I don't know. What about you? I mean, do you have an insecurity? You're such a little newbie on the internet. But
I'm completely great. I don't have any insecurities. I'm totally well adjusted.
I can't wait for the next year. Can we talk about like what your future is?
Yeah.
And we got to really wrap this up soon, but like
in an hour or two.
Briefly, I mean, depending on when this kid comes.
Great.
I have like 2 other podcasts I need to do today. No, I'm kidding. Can you imagine? That would make me feel really shitty if I was at someone's podcast. Yeah, and I hear really big podcasters do that. I'm like, oh, that sounds horrible.
I'm not special. No, I totally get it.
No. He was supposed to come yesterday, everybody.
I was. You're right. I'm getting over sickness.
Like your studio you're keeping.
Insecurity.
Are you changing anything? Let's call it your format, your video making, the projects. Is any of that changing? Do you have aspirations for anything else? I hope it doesn't. I'll just say that. At least for a little while.
Well, so if you had asked me a couple weeks ago or a month ago, I would have been like, I'm trying to increase the pace of my projects. The pace of like, I did
how often
8 projects this year.
Okay.
It took like a lot of projects to be like 2 months.
I rember we were talking about this.
Doing this. I was like, that's just too long. Like I want to do things more consistently.
Okay.
Even though I'm going to the studio every single day, basically, I was like somehow in my brain, huge thing that I want to talk about, which is people being like, the only way to make it on social media or the internet is you need to post like 7 times a day. No,
you're a testament to that.
No, I mean, like Stuff Made Here is another good example. It's like you can just put in a huge amount of effort into one project and potentially that could be another avenue. Like that's the road I've taken, which I 100%. Like more, which is super low
I do
quantity.
Too. I don't know what I'm thinking.
Well, it's whatever you want. But I think I'd internalized a lot of that. So I was like, I need to be posting more.
Okay.
And then like I had a conversation with my girlfriend and also just like sort of self conversations of being like, okay, where's that pressure coming from? Like, do you currently feel like you're not satisfied with your current like workload? I'm like, no, I'm actually feeling like sort of overwhelmed with my current workload. So why do you want to increase it? And so if you had asked me a month ago, I would have said the thing that's changing is trying to get more projects out there. And then I'm pushing back against that now. And I'm actually trying to, if anything, maintain or maybe slightly go down.
Okay.
Because I need to start figuring out how to balance my life better because otherwise I'll my life will implode.
Yeah.
Probably.
I think you'll be okay.
I
think you'll figure it out.
I'll figure it. But that
also,
figuring that out is rebalancing. I need to figure out how to rebalance.
And I think also people lose track of scale and time. It's like a year is long in terms of you get a lot of work done in a year, but it's not that long to really flesh out
as
your
a career. Like a year's nothing.
Not even a career. It's even just like a new hobby and patterns of behavior. Like only now, like you can say, okay, this was maybe a little detrimental to my life. And but it's like only a year, man. It's like you're gonna be okay and you're gonna figure it out. Like you have a support system. You're an educated person. Like I wouldn't worry about it. I know you're probably not worried, and it's good you're aware. But I just hope you keep going.
No,
and it doesn't stop.
I think that
Fuck your girlfriend.
No, everyone's amazing. It's like she's so out of my league.
I am so kidding.
But and I also don't want to make it sound like it's this like battle against like me wanting to do art and her. And it's just like it's like a battle against myself.
Totally.
Like how do I battle against my inner sort of the parts of my personality which can lead to some self-destruction in terms of like, oh, I'm doing so well with doing my art stuff. Like this is amazing.
Well, then it becomes like imposter syndrome. That's what I dealt with. It's like everything on the surface level. I should be wonderful. I should be waking up every day, living my dream.
Because you have the studio
because
space.
And all the other things in my life. But then the truth is when you go to sleep and then mind in your head, you're not happy.
The demons come.
That's the real shit, man. A lot of people deal with that. And also, of course, with the advent of success, it's probably going to be in a different, more way. Anyways, what else do you want to talk about? What else do you want to say? Well, I hope you keep going. Can you give us an inclination of another project you're working on? Come on, man. I know you are. What's a project do you have a project that you've thought about for a really long time that you haven't started that you know you're going to do one day?
No.
Really?
No, I
always have a few of those.
This is the low activation energy thing. If I'm like excited about a project, I'll just do it next time. Like
really?
Project.
Okay. Nice.
And because I don't necessarily, I think I limit myself. Like there's not I don't have like Christo level, like I'm going to cover Central Park and Gates and do the, the Empire State's building.
I hope you do, man.
But because that's so far outside of my financial means and just like general scale, like I don't have a team of people working with me, obviously.
You can easily get a team.
I don't want one.
I know, but I'm saying if you wanted to cover Central Park and something, you could get it done.
People have been
and I could help you.
Okay, so with the Beans Choir, that's a perfect example. It's like people volunteering to sing in the Beans Choir is like a perfect example of like
it was stuck in my head for days.
But this is why I love the internet, is that people all came together and were like, we want to support this ridiculous idea. And I love that about the internet. And so that's like, go Beans Choir people. I love you all. Thank you so much.
It's so awesome.
I got both my parents to be in that.
Nice.
I'll show them to you later.
Was everyone a good singer? It seemed like weirdly too good,
but
it seemed like weirdly good.
Well, so here's
like
the
a real choir.
But like people were like, and I said in the email, I was like, you do not like, it is not a prerequisite to be a good singer. You just need to be enthusiastic. And like, so I got probably like 50% of the people were like really bad singers.
Okay.
But like, I'm a really bad singer.
Hell yeah, I am.
So I would just turn the volume slightly down on the bad ones and then crank up the good ones. But there was like probably 5 people that were like professional singers. And so I really cranked those up. One of them actually was a Disney, like I had sung professionally for Disney in some capacity. And she was a soprano. I was just like, damn, this like one person is like really saving this whole thing. Is that your
No. And also I assume that actually if you put a bunch of people's voices together that are mediumly good,
it like balances it out. Yeah, absolutely.
No, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So no project in the future. You have no idea. You just wake up or a bird poops on you and you're like, I'm gonna go do it.
I just look at my list.
So you have nothing there on your list that you're like,
Well,
it's hard to believe you're not working on anything.
Well, I frantically finished the Beans project right before I left, and so
we didn't really talk about your post-processing editing process. That
nothing interesting.
I love that.
I record everything, bring it all.
You write a script? How many takes is it?
No, I just bring it all in, edit it chronologically,
and then you do the voiceover.
Then I do the voiceover at the end.
Yeah.
And I just describe. It's easy to just describe what's happening.
Right. But it's really tasteful. And again, it's like, I know it's like super simple, but like your film background has to come through. It's like all very well delivered to your eyeballs. And even your contextual conversation, it's not too much. It's like,
what do you mean contextual?
And then I was getting in my berries and I was,
oh, you mean like the description?
Just anecdotally things. It's not too in your face. Yeah. It's not over explained. That's something that I was critiquing myself. I feel like I I mansplain. I over-explain. I love bomb.
Gotcha.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I disagree, but
okay, thanks.
Love it.
Well, Eep, I'm really happy you were here.
I am very happy to have come.
Yeah, we'll do one.
This ring.
Thanks, my grandma's.
Very, sort of elven mixed with Morgoth.
Celtic-y.
I was gonna say Morgoth.
Yeah, I like that word. Mm-hmm. We'll do one of these like once a year, hopefully.
Great.
If you're into it. If I still have this place, or we could do it anywhere.
You could do it in your
holiday
garage.
special.
I don't care.
And if people are still listening, yes, SLEWNIVERSE is awesome. This is why, because this is the best. And there's a few people like you who I've really connected with recently. There's another one, Daniel Green, who's an author who writes fantasy stories.
Was he on the podcast?
No, not yet, but he's going to be. I'm doing this huge project with him, and it was all literally just through the internet. And I was really into him, and I DM'd him, and then we started talking. So it was almost opposite roles.
Yeah.
And this is why the internet's awesome.
Willed the friendship into being.
Right, dude?
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course.
It's the last podcast I'll ever do.
Maybe.
Until next year. And I had a wonderful time, so thank you.
Long podcast, man.
1, 2, 3.